Back in the womb, they were already conjoined twins. Every day they traded blows to fight over nutrients and life itself. Their mother's vitality was slowly being drained away. After they were born, their mother passed away from exhaustion. Even as children, they displayed an incredibly aggressive and brutal nature. They were always ready to torture servants and slaughter animals without the slightest hesitation. When their father asked why, they simply replied that they did it out of curiosity. As they grew up, Black Demon mastered the ghost spirit technique. Whatever he touched would explode into pieces. White Demon possessed the Ice God technique, capable of freezing everything with a single slash. Once, while out hunting, they slaughtered an entire innocent village. Realizing his own children were demons in human skin, their father wanted to uphold justice by eliminating his own flesh and blood to protect the martial arts world, but it was too late. In the end, he lost his own life at the hands of his two wicked sons. Ever since that day, a pair of cruel, murderous twins appeared in the Jianghu. They committed every evil imaginable. People called them by a name that brought terror across the entire martial arts world: the Black and White Twin Demons. Now they have appeared in Harmony Valley, a village that was once peaceful and has suddenly become stifling. Seeing these two bullying the village children the moment they arrived, Xiao Ma could not hold back and stepped in to reason with them, but was suddenly tapped on the shoulder by Black Demon. His whole body quickly swelled up like a balloon, looking as if it were about to burst. But the young man just let out a burp, and his belly deflated back to normal. The old man and the children were stunned, their faces frozen in absolute confusion. How on earth could this guy still be alive? That's unreal. Who on earth is he? This blank-faced youth is named Xiao Ma. Since he has nothing but superhuman strength, he usually does manual labor to make a living. He works, but while he puts in the effort, he causes even more trouble. When he washes dishes, he accidentally replaces the owner's entire set of plates. When he transports wood up the mountain to build a house, he nearly sent the whole village to meet their ancestors. Far away in the shadows of the trees, scouts from the Martial Arts Alliance were holding their breath, watching. It couldn't be mistaken. It was definitely them, the Black and White Twin Demons. The intelligence was correct. Black Demon gestured toward Xiao Ma with his chin. White Demon, that brat is mine. Cut it out, little brother. Don't even think about fighting me for him. White Demon, with a face as cold as ice, sneered. I don't like being told what to do. What if I want to fight you for him? An invisible killing intent collided between the two demon brothers. They let out a cold grunt, and then, as if they were already used to this, they spoke in unison. Since we're both men, why not settle it with our fists? Those two cruel men extended their hands and began to play rock, paper, scissors like two children to decide who would get to fight, while the surrounding atmosphere grew as tight as a bowstring. The Martial Arts Alliance guards decided to intervene. The captain stepped forward, his voice firm. Two gentlemen, please stop. Harmony Valley is under the jurisdiction of the Martial Arts Alliance. The children nearby, still too innocent to understand, tugged on Xiao Ma's shirt, worried. Big brother Xiao Ma, those four guys look really scary. It looks like they're about to fight. Let's run away. The Martial Arts Alliance captain remained firm. I don't know why you two are here, but without permission you have no right to set foot on our territory. Replying to the warning, Black Demon turned to his younger brother with a mocking expression. White Demon, what are these flies buzzing about? Probably want to chase us away, he said then. They completely ignored the presence of the Martial Arts Alliance and returned to their unfinished game. Ha, I won! Black Demon cheered triumphantly. White Demon, having lost his face, twisted with anger. He vented his fury on those who dared to interrupt his fun, roaring, You vermin! It's all because of you that I lost that round of rock, paper, scissors. The captain remained calm. May I ask you two, does the Lord of Ghost Spirit City know about this? No, I fear your thoughtless actions will be the spark that ignites a war between these two powers. Before the words had even faded, a cold streak of light flashed. White Demon licked his lips, his voice cruel. Too noisy. won't stop yapping. Let me send you on your way so you can have some peace. It's all because of you damn people that I lost that game of rock, paper, scissors. The horrifying scene left the remaining 3 guards terrified, their limbs trembling, their faces drained of all color. Xiaoma acted immediately. He patted the children's heads to reassure them, his voice deep and decisive. Listen to me, run away from here right now as far as you can. His eyes looked toward the 2 demons glinting with icy hatred. The remaining martial arts alliance guards were like turtles pulling in their heads, indignant but powerless. They knew staying behind was just being cannon fodder. This place is too dangerous. We have to lure them away, one whispered. Instantly, all 3 turned and ran for their lives. Oh, running away already! Cowards! White Demon sneered with contempt. Black Demon licked his lips, his smile turning wicked. Then that brat will be mine. It's settled. Finishing his words, White Demon channeled his energy, his body turning into a white blur as he dashed off to pursue the 3 martial artists. Only Black Demon and Xiaoma remained. He turned back. Hey brat, looks like you've got some skills. What's your name? In the blink of an eye, Xiaoma disappeared from his spot and appeared right in front of Black Demon, throwing a thunderous punch directly at his opponent's throat, a surprise attack. And absolutely fatal. Black Demon only had time to feel a terrifying force strike him, and his entire body was sent flying backward like a marionette, with cut strings flung dozens of meters away. The children panicked and scattered, their frantic screams echoing, "They're fighting! Run, someone's been killed!" Black Demon crawled up, his rage boiling. A sharp pain from his throat left him reeling. He couldn't believe what had just happened. Just now, I didn't see his movement at all. Was it because I was careless, or am I being toyed with by this backwater brat? His face hadn't even recovered from the distortion of the punch when a black shadow descended again. A heaven-shaking kick carrying a roaring wind lashed straight at his face. "Dangerous!" he shouted in his mind instinctively, raising both hands to block. Crack! The sound of breaking bone rang out horribly. A terrifying pain surged, but Xiaoma didn't give him a second to breathe. Like a ghost, he constantly closed the distance, unleashing a storm of attacks, without a single opening. "You're pretty tough too." Xiaoma gritted his teeth, and another punch landed squarely on Black Demon's chest. Crunch. A terrifying force pierced through the flesh and muscle, transmitting straight into his skeleton. Everywhere Xiaoma's fist swept it left behind deadly fractures. Black Demon couldn't understand it. He hadn't felt a single shred of internal energy from Xiaoma's punches, but every strike made the skeleton in his entire body feel as if it were being brutally shattered by an invisible iron rod. Every impact carried nothing but pure, raw power. The brutality left the practitioner of the demon spirit art feeling utterly helpless. But the most terrifying part wasn't the pain. It was the fact that he couldn't dodge the blow. The force of this country bumpkin's punches. The demon gripped his twisting gut, his mind in chaos, as a bizarre, strange internal energy directly shook his dantian, scattering his inner breath. If he took one more hit like that, his life would surely be forfeit. Realizing he had fallen into a position of absolute disadvantage, the demon hurriedly used Lightfoot techniques to retreat and create some distance. What should he do? Why can't I see through his attack patterns? In this state, he definitely hasn't trained in any formal martial arts. He doesn't even have proper footwork. In his panic, the demon tried to analyze the situation, but the more he thought, the more cornered he felt. He gritted his teeth against the pain. He growled, "Tell me, kid, who on earth are you?" Tu Ma casually rotated his shoulders, a slight smile touching his lips. "Your bones are pretty sturdy, aren't they? Could it be that everyone in the Demon Spirit City has your level of skill?" he said then. He rubbed his slightly reddened fist, his gaze turning sharp and cold. "All right, let's get warmed up. Enough. From now on I won't hold back." That sentence felt like the ultimate insult to the dark demon. He widened his eyes and roared, "Are you kidding me? You mean you've just been playing with me this whole time?" The moment his roar faded, a black shadow lunged forward, delivering a punch with the power of a sledgehammer. It slammed straight into his jaw. In that moment of dizziness, a distant memory rushed back that day. In the quiet forest, two children, the black and white demons, were sitting on a rock. The black demon held up a tiny finger, condensing a drop of dew into a large water orb hovering in mid-air. "Look at this. This is the demon spirit art." The white demon glanced over with an indifferent expression. The water orb on the black demon's hand suddenly shattered. "Your new technique?" the white demon asked. "Yeah," the black demon replied. Another water orb, even larger, appeared. "It's just like explosives. Only this kind of explosive is a bit dangerous." Before his smug smile could even fade, the water orb detonated. Hundreds of water droplets sprayed in every direction like a hail of bullets piercing through ancient trees, leaving behind countless deep holes. The white demon had to use all his strength to deflect the few drops flying toward him. The destructive power is no different from fireworks, compressed to the limit and unleashed in an instant. I call it 10,000 sky exploding thunder. Back in reality, the black demon's eyes flared with a mix of despair and madness. He knew he only had one chance, one single strike. Just one. As Tiu Ma lunged to deliver the finishing blow, the black demon poured all his remaining strength into the attempt, barely dodging by a hair's breadth. And in that passing moment, his hand touched the opponent's chest. "Die!" The demon roared, channeling all his internal power into Tiu Ma's body, and screaming the name of the technique, 10,000 sky exploding thunder. A blinding beam of light erupted from Tiu Ma's body. The demon's inner power exploded like a bomb from within. The ground shook violently, rubble and stones sprayed everywhere. Everything within 100-foot radius was crushed into powder. But when the dust cleared the sight before him, left the black demon frozen. At the center of the destruction, Tiu Ma's figure appeared without a single scratch. His eyes were now cold as ice, carrying a pressure that made it hard to breathe. His voice was low. "Is this really all you've got?" The black demon's whole body trembled violently, not from his wounds, but from a primal fear that was suffocating his heart. No, this is impossible. How could he withstand the 10,000 sky exploding thunder? The black demon pointed at Tiu Ma, his voice trembling. What exactly are you?" Responding to his question, the space behind Tiu Ma began to ripple. A majestic and ancient azure dragon phantom was coiling itself. Its burning golden eyes looked down at him as if he were nothing more than an ant. A heaven dragon. The black demon went blank as a warning from a mysterious person years ago echoed in his mind. Your demon spirit art is overbearing, but if you encounter a master who doesn't use internal energy, it becomes useless. If the enemy can absorb your power, or if your strikes hit them, creating even a bit of damage, just run. Don't fight to the death, because those are the masters of the transcendent realm, those who have broken free from the constraints of internal power. In front of them, your demon spirit art is nothing more than chicken feed. Transcendent realm. This nobody, how could he be a legendary transcendent master? He has no internal energy, no reputation. He's just a country bumpkin, nothing more. The black demon's thoughts were in a total tailspin. Indignation and despair nearly drove him mad. A monster like you, why are you hiding in this godforsaken place? Who are you really? Who are you? Tiu Ma didn't answer. To him, the loser didn't need to know too much. He lunged his fist, carrying the dragon might of the heaven dragon, his voice cold. Everything ends here. Tiu Ma's punch arrived like a storm. In that moment of life and death, every cell in the black demon's body screamed in warning. He knew if he took this punch head-on, the only road ahead for him was the underworld. This brat, his movement technique is bizarre, but maybe he doesn't know Lightfoot. That's it. If I can't attack his upper body, then I'll aim for his lower half. A desperate thought flashed through his mind. In the black demon's mind, it was mutually assured destruction. He didn't hesitate, roaring as he slammed both hands into the ground. The swirling energy of the demon spirit art was channeled directly into the earth. The ground beneath Tiu Ma's feet turned into a death trap. The earth began to quake. Ma frowned, feeling the chaotic energy rising from below, but before he could react, Demon Spirit Art. Thunderbolt Palm. The black demon poured all his power into it, letting out a heartbreaking scream. Boom! The ground under Ma exploded, and a massive pillar of dust shot into the sky, bringing dirt rocks and terrifying destructive power with it. The shockwave spread, creating a deep crater where Ma had just been standing. Hearing the earth-shattering explosion, the white demon who was hunting down the martial arts guards was startled and looked back. He smirked in satisfaction. Why does that guy have to make such a big show of it? But if that's how it's going to be, I can't let them show me up. Neither can the Martial Arts Alliance guards. They didn't even have time to turn pale at the power of that damn attack before they were already being hunted down. Realizing things had gone south, they immediately signaled to split up in 3 different directions to escape. But the white demon wouldn't let his prey get away so easily. His body moved like a ghost. In the blink of an eye, he blocked the path of a bulky guard carrying a trident. Perhaps because of his massive frame, he was the slowest of the 3. And the fat man looked up. He was horrified to see the white demon diving down from above like a bird of prey carrying a blade of freezing cold energy, not wanting that black demon to have all the fun he swiped. An icy sword strike flashed by. Back at the main battlefield, the black demon staggered out from the thick clouds of dust, covered in wounds and gasping for air. Sweat poured down his pale forehead, showing that the last move had drained almost all of his inner energy. He had poured the entire essence of his demonic arts into that one destructive strike. You brat, even if you were a god, you should have been blown to pieces at the center of that blast. But his joy didn't last a second. Right in front of him, through the dust, which was beginning to clear, a towering figure appeared completely unscathed, not a single scratch. Before he could even process it, Ma swung his fist. Boom, a dry thudding sound echoed. The punch didn't hit his head, but landed straight on the black demon's chin. The horrifying force stretched his neck before slamming his entire head straight into the ground, leaving only his body twitching unconsciously. Ma stood there coldly. He didn't even glance at the defeated foe under his feet. Meanwhile, the white demon, after slaughtering one person, continued the pursuit. He stood leisurely on the rooftop. The sword in his hand trembled slightly, radiating icy mist. You think splitting up will help you escape me? Naive. As soon as he finished speaking, his body melted into the air, vanishing on the spot. The 2 remaining guards only felt a chill at the back of their necks, cold sweat dripping down before they could even realize what was happening. The white demon had already appeared right next to one of them, his bewitching voice whispering in his ear, "Your turn." Swish, a sword strike so fast that the human eye could not keep up. The white demon like a star, a deadly frost streaking back and forth across the rooftops. Hunting his final prey, he stood on the highest tower scanning the area. Let's see, one last one running that way. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the void and grabbed his face. It was Ma. No one knew when he had appeared. One hand grabbed the white demon's head, while the other carried the unconscious body of the black demon, as if he were holding a chicken. A terrifying force erupted from Ma's hand, crashed the highest tower of Hoanak Valley. The symbol of the entire village was cracked in 2 by the sheer power of his grip, and the white demon who had just been at the top was now pinned straight to the ground by that very same hand legs kicking in the rubble. The white demon was boiling with rage. He trembled, trying to force himself up, feeling like every bone in his body had shattered. Damn it! What the hell just happened? Why was I dragged down so ridiculously? He looked up and froze. Lying not far away, his twin brother, the black demon, was buried head first in the ground, his body twitching like a stranded fish. Black demon. The white demon stammered, unable to believe his eyes. What had happened to him as the last of the dust settled? Ma's silhouette emerged as steady as a mountain. He nonchalantly brushed the dust off his shoulder, his eyes sharp as daggers piercing through the white demon. The rage inside Ma exploded like a volcano. He gritted his teeth. You damn bastards! Is life so cheap in your eyes? So cheap? You think you can just take it away so easily?" Responding to the sharp questioning was a cold, savage laugh. The white demon glanced at the black demon lying motionless in the distance, his voice full of disbelief. "Am I dreaming? Someone like the black demon actually being defeated? I don't need to know why you two bastards crawled to Hoanak Valley," Tu-Ma roared. "Naturally, a hick like you wouldn't understand," the white demon shrieked in response. He swung his sword and lunged, but it was too late. Tu-Ma's fist didn't just carry raw muscle power, it tore through the white demon's thin defenses with terrifying force, continuing to shatter the solid stone wall behind him, creating a gaping hole. Tu-Ma stood there majestic and imposing, his voice booming with authority. "Listen clearly. Don't ever lurk around this Hoanak Valley again, or else I'll personally send you to meet your ancestors." The white demon slid off the wall both knees, buckling onto the cold ground, his hand still gripping his beloved sword as a final shred of pride. He was bitter. Since he was little, he had never respected martial arts. In his eyes, martial arts were vulgar and foul, just sweaty, dirty brawling. It was too far from the concept of beauty he worshipped, because the only beautiful thing in the world, to the white demon, was a woman. He still remembered those moments vividly. When a few beautiful young women happened to pass by, their eyes would flash with surprise and admiration when they saw the strange pair of twins. But alas, that beauty is only truly perfect when one cannot touch it. In the old study, the black demon once asked him, "You say you despise martial arts, so why come here?" The white demon had tightened his grip on the secret manual in his hand, his eyes burning with fanatical fire. "If my swordsmanship reaches the peak, I can freeze a rushing waterfall, even turn a blazing fire into ice." Does the book say it can freeze fire? The thought flashed through his mind. Instinctively, he turned to look at the flickering candle on the table, then slowly extended his index finger. An invisible icy mist radiated out, and the red flame. Ryoku instantly transformed into an exquisite ice flower. He gave a cold, dismissive laugh, so it wasn't anything special after all. He'd succeeded after only a few tries. Indeed, in just one night, White Ghost had mastered the ice-white divine art. He was a genius among geniuses, but deep within him lay a twisted, sick desire. He craved possession of beauty, an eternal beauty that he alone could enjoy. Because of this, he began freezing the women he deemed beautiful, turning them into frozen sculptures within his secret chamber. To him, martial arts were not about bloody life or death battles. They were a form of art, and anything he deemed unartistic, like Little Ma's brute force, should be hacked to pieces, crushed to dust, or simply wiped out. Facing Little Ma, his artistic rage flared. He despised such raw, crude power. Whoosh! Little Ma threw a kick, but White Ghost drifted away as lightly as a leaf. His movement was unnaturally elegant. He tightened his grip on his sword and lunged from above, the killing intent radiating from the blade bone chilling. "It is because of trash like you that my art is tarnished. How could I ever accept this?" he roared in a frenzy. "How could a backwater bumpkin like you be stronger than me?" A stunningly beautiful sword strike was unleashed, carrying the power to freeze all things, but it only slashed through an illusion. Little Ma's figure faded and dissolved into thin air. In a heartbeat, Little Ma appeared right above White Ghost's head. At that moment, White Ghost's sanity completely collapsed. He looked up at the sky, cursing incessantly. "You bastard, that spot will be your grave, standing in the void. How will you dodge this ice-white divine art? Ultimate technique, dancing snow blossoms." The space around White Ghost suddenly crystallized. Thousands of gorgeous ice flowers bloomed, and from each flower razor-sharp ice swords shot out, weaving a lethal web. The number of ice swords grew exponentially, from a few to tens of thousands, screaming as they dove toward their singular target in the sky. Yet facing that destructive ultimate technique, Little Ma remained terrifyingly calm. Below, White Ghost gritted his teeth, his face twisted with triumph. "Die!" Tens of thousands of ice swords engulfed Little Ma, forming a massive floating sphere of ice in midair. The smile that had just bloomed on White Ghost's face instantly froze solid. Boom! A massive hole suddenly appeared in the sky. All of his killing technique had been knocked into another dimension. Little Ma landed gently on the ground right in front of him. He didn't have a single scratch on him. Extreme fear washed over White Ghost's face. He couldn't believe his most perfect technique had been dismantled so easily. And then, one more punch was thrown. This time, it aimed straight for his artistic face. Bam! White Ghost was sent flying like a cannonball. He flew hundreds of meters, piercing through dozens of solid stone walls before falling with a thud, lying motionless like a pile of rags amidst the gaping holes he had left behind. Little Ma stepped out slowly, as imposing as a war god descended to Earth. The 7th-rank Spirit Demon City's White Ghost was utterly defeated. Hiding behind an ancient tree, the guard from the Martial Alliance had witnessed the entire horrific battle. His chest heaved, cold sweat pouring down his neck. No, I can't believe it. That young man took down the black and white twin ghosts with just one punch. A master of this caliber. How could he appear in a godforsaken place like Harmony Valley? His mind spun. Historically, the Martial Alliance and Spirit Demon City had always been at a stalemate. Like fire and water with equal strength, neither side daring to mobilize their armies. But the appearance of this mysterious individual had shattered that fragile balance. If this news reaches Spirit Demon City, he muttered, they definitely won't sit idly by. A full-scale war is inevitable. Must report this to the Alliance leader immediately. Cannot delay even for a moment. Thinking this, the guard's form turned into a blur, quickly disappearing deep into the jungle. Below, the old carriage driver had grabbed the collars of the two demonic ghosts who were still unconscious. Before leaving, he looked up at Little Ma, his eyes filled with respect and curiosity, and asked, "This little brother, I am but a humble carriage driver. I dare ask for your noble name." Little Ma turned back. Little Ma. Just 2 simple words, but they felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds. He didn't ask further, quickly dragging the 2 broken black and white twin ghosts away. With such a miserable defeat, I fear they won't meet a good end if they return to Spirit Demon City. Perhaps taking them into hiding for a while is the best choice. Spirit Demon City was not a single city, but a powerful alliance formed from 13 fortified strongholds guarding the north of the continent. Spirit Demon City possessed 100,000 elite armored cavalry. With a population of over 10 million, it was one of the most terrifying forces of the era. In a magnificent palace in the central city, a figure was rushing down the hallway, shouting as he ran, "Lord Mad Demon, the city lord has issued an emergency summons. Please wake up." As the heavy door cracked open, a surge of icy blood-thick killing intent spilled out, engulfing the entire room. On the opulent bed, a muscular, brawny physique like solid steel was sleeping. That was none other than Mad Demon, one of the 10 great masters of Spirit Demon City. But when the subordinate's gaze swept past the bedside, his face suddenly turned ghastly pale, stuttering incoherently. Could it be? Lord Mad Demon, lying next to him, was a woman who had become nothing but a withered, leather-wrapped skeleton. Her vitality had been drained. The noise woke Mad Demon. He sluggishly sat up, looking at his work, then back at the body of the woman, which was slowly aging. A flicker of self-reproach appeared in his eyes. Again, I couldn't control my killing intent. The subordinate tried to suppress his terror, and said, "My lord, once or twice is one thing, but if this continues..." Before he could finish, he suddenly spat out blood. The invisible killing intent of the Mad Demon was eroding his internal organs. He quickly knelt down, begging with difficulty, "My lord, please put on your armor, your killing intent." Mad Demon sighed softly, slowly draping on his armor, made of 10,000-year black iron. This armor wasn't to protect him, but to protect those around him from himself. He was a monster. His mere radiating killing intent was enough to crush the weak. Any person who looked directly into his eyes for too long would lose consciousness or even cough up blood and die. After armoring up, he walked away, leaving behind the subordinate, who had passed out on the floor. An action he had repeated thousands of times at Heavenly Demon Pass, the meeting place for the Spirit Demon City leaders, at the 3 highest chairs. 2 seats were already taken, but there was 1 spot left. Even the area beneath the 2 chairs that used to belong to the black and white duo remained empty. Their failure triggered a massive earthquake within Ghost Spirit City. The 10 top experts of the city are ranked under the title the First Heaven, the Second Spirit, the Third Demon, and the 4th Ghost. The black and white duo belong to the 4th Ghost rank, but now they've been crippled. A sinister voice echoed from the shadows. Look at their pathetic state upon returning. They kept their lives, but their energy centers have been destroyed. All their internal power has dissipated. From now on, they can only serve as menial errand boys. What a shame. But I'm curious what kind of martial art could possibly beat them into such a state. It could only be brawler art, another voice replied. The first speaker sounded skeptical. You mean those 2 were defeated by some brute using only his bare hands? Brawler art, the most primitive form of combat relying solely on empty hands, not relying on internal energy. This is the foundation of all martial arts, yet it's the one most despised by experts. Another individual with long tentacle-like hair let out a creepy demonic laugh. Those twin brats have failed. Then the ranking of the 10 top experts should change. In terms of cruelty and ruthlessness, they might rank 7th or 8th, but when it comes to true strength, I'm afraid those 2 couldn't even squeeze into the top 20. A sharp, crisp cracking sound echoed as the armrest of his throne splintered under his grip. Shut up, I don't want to hear your stupid excuses. I want to know the identity of the person who turned my 2 hounds into this pathetic mess. The old carriage driver, who had witnessed everything, bowed respectfully and replied with a trembling voice, Lord, that person's name is Little Ma. The city lord narrowed his eyes. Little Ma, a mediocre name. I've never heard of him. From a dark corner of the grand hall, a delicate but mocking female voice spoke up. A stunningly beautiful woman was lazily resting her chin on her hand. With a slight twitch of her lips, she added, So what about the flower, Tuna? Did you all really let her escape the gilded cage and fly off to some unknown horizon? A subordinate hurriedly reported, My lady, according to reports, Bak Tuna escaped the city 1 month and 10 days ago. She has been confirmed to have crossed the 3 music passes and Ghost Soul Valley. Currently, it has been verified that she is hiding in her hometown Harmony Valley. This news did not cool the city lord's anger. He let out a cold snort. I need someone to go to Harmony Valley and bring back the head of that wench Bak Tunga. What's with those annoyed expressions on your faces? What are you all playing at? Everyone bowed their heads in silence. No one dared to accept the order. Just then, the heavy iron doors creaked open, revealing a giant figure. Covered in black iron armor filled with sharp spikes, he stepped in. He was none other than the Mad Demon. His gaze swept over the unconscious bodies of the black and white duo. Upon seeing him, the city lord's eyes gleamed. You've come at the right time, Mad Demon. You go to Harmony Valley. The Mad Demon let out a harsh, rasping laugh, his voice sounding like metal, grinding together. Harmony Valley Lord, are you sure? If I go, I'm afraid not a single blade of grass will be left growing in that small valley. The city lord laughed cruelly. The killing intent grew even thicker. Whether Harmony Valley is destroyed or not is none of my concern. You just need to bring Bak Tunya back dead or alive. That's your choice. Understood. The Mad Demon bowed and turned and left. Back in Harmony Valley, the atmosphere was completely different. The ruins of the horrific battle were still there, but the air was unusually lively. The townspeople gathered in small groups, whispering and discussing the earth-shattering battle that had just occurred. Oh my God, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. Did you see it? That guy only used his bare hands. A mere errand boy who would have thought he was a peerless expert. It's unimaginable. However, while the people were excited, the valley chief's subordinates were having a massive headache, calculating the damages. A man who looked like the village secretary reported sweating profusely. Just the cost of road repairs alone is estimated to be about 500 taels of silver. Both looked up at the village's tallest tower, which had been split in two, and let out a long sigh. The cost of repairing the houses and rooms will probably reach that much as well. The valley chief rubbed his temples, asking wearily, "You confirm it was that very same errand boy who caused all this destruction?" "Yes, sir, my subordinates can confirm it." "What was his name again? Little something I can't quite remember." Amidst the noise, our protagonist Little Ma was sitting in a corner feeling the irony of life. The sky was still blue, the ground was a wreck, and the jerk competing with him was still surrounded by a crowd of young ladies stuffing money into his hands. Meanwhile, I, the hero of the day, am still just an errand boy nobody hires with an empty stomach. I have a dream. One day my name will be known far and wide, and I will achieve great things. But dreams cannot fill this growling stomach of mine. Let's put that aside for now. It's all because of that parasite. This errand-running business may not be high class, but one should still have professional ethics. The biggest taboo is setting up a stall right next to a colleague. It's like smashing each other's rice bowls. Little Ma glanced at the other guy's advertising sign. It had a cheesy line written on it, "Nothing is impossible under heaven. Just offer your jade heel, and I shall tie your ribbon." Reading it made his skin crawl. Clearly he was using flowery words to scam money out of gullible young ladies. A classic example of the vermin in the errand-running world, sparing neither the old nor the young. What a disgrace to this noble profession. He gritted his teeth, his inner voice screaming, "That bastard, as long as he exists in this Harmony Valley, I won't even have a blade of grass to eat if I let him do as he pleases like this. I'll be out on the street gasping for air before long." Thinking is doing. Little Ma charged forward with overwhelming momentum, pointing directly at the person who had stolen his customers, and loudly declared, "Hey, you!" The sentence suddenly took an unexpected turn. "Could you spare me a bite to eat?" The hero image crumbled. Our Little Ma, in everyone's shock, turned into humble reverence. They lowered their proud heads, knelt down respectfully, and reached out to ask their rival for a piece of roasted corn. The children clutched their bellies, giggling. One whispered to the other, "See, I told you, just throw him a little treat and he'll snap it up immediately." Even Xiao Ma himself, unable to understand his own actions, he kept gnawing on the corn while questioning himself in agony. Why, a man who stands tall against the heavens and walks firm on the earth like me, having to bow and kneel just for a measly piece of corn? I can't forgive myself. Oh, how humiliating. Suddenly, a commanding voice echoed from afar. "Hey, you there!" Xiao Ma jumped, then rejoiced inwardly. He chewed the corn vigorously, his eyes gleaming with delight. "Ha ha, you're in for it now. You've gone and messed with the crankiest customer in this whole delivery business." That's the legendary head chef of the Long Men Inn, a total tyrant. She made this inhuman rule: if I break even one plate, it gets deducted straight from my monthly salary. She's finally coming for you. Haha, your life is basically over. But no, the tyrant just gently stretched out her leg and said, "Tie my shoelaces for me." The children started whispering again. See, being handsome really does have its perks. Xiao Ma stood frozen, rubbing his eyes repeatedly, refusing to believe the scene before him. No way. What on earth am I seeing? Does being handsome really allow you to win over beautiful women, gain wealth, and even seize power? Mom, Dad, I want to be handsome too. In desperation, he grabbed a nearby shard of broken mirror to check his reflection. Click. A strange sound rang out. The mirror seemed unable to withstand the pressure of his face and cracked further. Xiao Ma was speechless. Now he understood the problem wasn't the name, it was this mug of his. Oh heavens, why am I not handsome? Just then, a group of burly men, faces filled with murderous intent, marched aggressively from the end of the valley. Hey you! Hope flared up in Xiao Ma's heart once again. He thought smugly. Finally, justice has arrived. These must be the people from the Harmony Valley Residents Association. A vagabond like you with no roots and no home, how dare you set up shop here? Get ready to close down, boy. Xiao Ma was moved to tears. So happy. This feeling makes me forget all the hardships of the past. Once this jerk is kicked out, I will believe again that justice still exists in this world. Life is worth living after all, but life is not a dream. The valley chief, the leader of the group, instead of kicking the guy out, approached him and broke into a warm spring breeze smile. The handsome guy also bowed respectfully. Greetings, Chief. It's been a long time since we last met. Haha, that's right. It's been so long. I didn't expect you to have grown this much, nephew. And how is your father doing lately? It was like a bolt of lightning striking Xiao Ma. His eyes were wide as saucers, and his brain stopped functioning. Oh my God, I never saw this twist coming. Isn't there an unwritten rule in the underworld that, to maintain fairness and integrity, you must eliminate the 3 ties, academic ties, regional ties, and blood ties? What the hell is going on? The 3 ties relationships based on being from the same school, hometown, or bloodline. Just as Xiao Ma was dazed, the valley chief's sharp knife-like gaze suddenly darted toward him. The look felt as if he owed the man a fortune. His intuition told Xiao Ma that the newcomers meant no good. It was best to play dumb and let it pass. So he put on a look of innocent ignorance, waving his hands frantically. It wasn't me, no. It wasn't me. It has nothing to do with me. The valley chief frowned, his voice firm. What do you mean it wasn't you? I haven't even said anything yet. Are you feeling guilty already, Chief? Whatever, it still wasn't me, okay. Without bothering to argue, the man threw a thick stack of papers right into Xiao Ma's face. Read this first. It's a detailed report of the material damages, i.g. that your earth-shattering battle caused to Harmony Valley. Xiao Ma trembled as he held the paper, his eyes glued to the final row of numbers, muttering as he counted each 01. 10, 100,000, 10,000, 100,000. Each 0 felt like a sledgehammer blow to his head. Just one glance at the paper in the chief's hand, and Xiao Ma jumped up. His eyes rolled back as if they were about to pop out, his voice cracking with terror. 1,000 taels. Sir, are you kidding me? What kind of compensation reaches 1,000 taels of white silver? Valley Chief. What is this letter? I swear, even if I had 8 heads, I wouldn't remember doing anything so outrageous. Honestly, I don't believe a fellow like you has the skill to cause such earth-shattering destruction. Hearing this, Xiao Ma was as happy as if he'd struck gold, quickly chiming in. Exactly, you are wise, Chief. See, how could it possibly be me? Suddenly, the valley chief changed his tone, pointed into the distance, and shouted, Little brother, look over there. There's something interesting. Instinctively, Xiao Ma whipped his head around. Thwack! A wooden staff landed squarely on the top of his head. The surprise attack made him stagger, clutching his head and screaming in agony. Ah, it hurts! The valley chief lowered the staff and dusted off his hands nonchalantly. See, that's done. His underlings, seeing this, eagerly rushed forward, clubs in hand. Chief, let us have a go too. Thwack, thwack. A few more hits landed. Xiao Ma lay sprawled on the ground, groaning. He looked absolutely pathetic. The surrounding crowd watched the scene in bewilderment. I guess we were wrong after all. I think so too, even though we know martial arts experts can use disguise techniques to change their entire aura. Acting this deeply is just too realistic. Thinking they had targeted the wrong person, the Valley Chief's group quietly retreated without offering a single word of apology. Valley Chief, so what about the compensation? Just report to the Martial Alliance that 3 of their lives were left behind here. They'll definitely send someone down to investigate. We'll deal with it when we get there. Once the group had disappeared, a clear, gentle voice reached the young man's ears. Are you all right? Little Ma sat up with a start, and a pure white silk handkerchief was held out before him. Quick, use this to wipe the blood off. No, too dazzled to see who it was, Little Ma snatched the cloth and wiped his nose while muttering to himself, forget it. That was close. It nearly scared the soul out of me. 1,000 taels of silver is no small change. If I hadn't played dumb, I'd have had to sell the house. Just as he finished his silent grumbling, he looked up to see a stunning beauty standing before him, smiling down at him. Who are you? Bai Tunya bowed slightly, her voice as melodious as silver bells. Kind sir, is it true that for 1 tael of silver you can resolve anything? Little Ma hesitated. Well, that's right. His eyes flickered toward the pampered young master sitting at the next table. That's strange. Why isn't this lady asking that pretty boy instead of me? Bai Tunya seemed to read his thoughts. She asked further, Is the person next to you a friend of yours? No. Little Ma waved his hand dismissively. We just happen to share a table. I have nothing to do with him. He turned to the other guy. Hey, she's looking for you, right? The guy just shook his head repeatedly. Bai Tu Inga smiled charmingly. That's perfect. The favor I need is, would you be willing to come home with me? Go home. Little Ma was stunned. Then a sly grin appeared on his face. Go home, hey hey. In his head, beautiful scenes instantly appeared, living together with a beauty, playing with their children. Bai Tu Inga's voice cut through his wild daydreams. Kind sir, what are you thinking about? Oh no, nothing. Anything the matter? Bai Tunya suddenly leaned in close, her fragrant breath brushing against his ear as she whispered, Actually, you're quite handsome, you know. Oof. Little Ma was overjoyed. This lady truly has a better eye for people than the rest of the world. With that, the deal was sealed. That afternoon, the two walked side by side on the road home. Kind sir, you know, Bai Tunya began, acting shy. The roads in the valley are dangerous at night. Recently, I've even heard about people being killed in fights. My home is far away, and as a young woman alone, how could I not be afraid? Little Ma puffed out his chest, trying to look gallant. With me here, you can rest easy. Honestly, I've been here for years and know almost everyone in the valley, so how come I've never seen you before? Never mind. It must be fate that heaven has arranged for us, don't you think? Haha. Bai Tunya remained silent, not answering. Her gaze flickered down to Little Ma's footsteps. They were heavy. There was nothing there that suggested he was a martial artist. Even his breathing was steady. There was absolutely no sign of internal energy. It was unbelievable. Rumors said this guy had beaten the black and white devils into a pathetic state. Suddenly, Bai Tunya pointed at Little Ma. What's wrong? He turned back to ask her. She kept a calm expression, but her eyes were deep and unfathomable. It's just that I've also heard that supreme masters, once they reach the realm of shedding their mortal bones, their bodies return to a state of simplicity, just like an ordinary person's, no longer needing internal energy. Little Ma blinked and asked back, his voice a bit confused. Does asking that make you unhappy, young lady? It's just that I wanted to confirm for sure whether he really is an expert or not. Bai Tunya didn't answer, just gave him a faint glance and stepped forward. Her voice was cold, almost commanding. Follow me, this way. A crescent moon hung in the night sky, casting a cold, silvery light onto the dirt path. They stopped before a dilapidated, abandoned mansion. From inside, a killing intent thick as congealed blood wafted out, making one's hair stand on end. This is your home. Little Ma swallowed hard, stammering. Looking left and right, it looked exactly like a haunted house. Bai Tunya offered a mysterious smile. Just go inside, you'll see. It was already late at night. If she wanted to verify if this guy really had the strength to defeat the black and white devils, the best way was to throw him into the tiger's den. Hearing the words, late at night, a bolt of romantic lightning seemed to strike Little Ma's brain. All his guard vanished. In its place was a glorious vision of a home and children. A stream of saliva unconsciously dripped from the corner of his mouth. How can there be such a straightforward and sincere lady in this world? In his head, the image of Tunya in thin sheer robes acting shy by candlelight appeared in vivid detail. Seeing his dazed expression, Bai Tu-nya couldn't help but frown. She couldn't understand what kind of play was going on inside that blockhead's brain. Her voice rose, cutting through little Ma's delusions. "Hey, why are you still standing there? Don't you plan on coming in?" Coming right in." Little Ma jumped, hurrying to push the door open and rushing in like an arrow. But after a few steps, he suddenly froze, his face full of hesitation. "Wait, but we've known each other for less than an hour. Isn't this pace a bit too fast? And what if your parents are home? How am I supposed to talk to the two elders? This really is too abrupt." Bai Tu-nga had run out of patience. "So noisy!" She threw a kick, not holding back at all, and booted little Ma right in the rear, sending him flying straight into the dark room. "Ah, ouch!" Little Ma cried out loudly, rolling several times on the cold floor. Outside, Bai Tu-nga coldly closed the heavy door, her voice echoing inside, cold and ruthless. "If you want my approval, it's simple: survive and walk out of this ghost god's pit." Thud. The door slammed shut, locking little Ma inside the darkness. He rubbed the bump forming on his head, muttering complaints. "Why would you suddenly—" Before he could finish, he fell silent. His eyes widened, staring fixedly at the thing sitting imposingly in the middle of the room. Turning time back a few days, Bai Tu-nga had tracked down the owner of this mansion, a man with an ordinary appearance who was sitting on a wooden chair, leisurely carving a small figurine. "Do you know why this place is called the Ghost God's Pit? Because anyone who walks in here on two legs can only leave once they've turned into a ghost. I don't understand why someone from the Spirit Demon City would come looking for me. Listen, this man is the legendary puppet general." "Bach Tu-nya," replied, her tone sharp and fearless. "If this were a few years ago, I wouldn't know, but given the current power of the Ma Lin Citadel, there is almost nothing we cannot accomplish. There is no task beyond our reach." Her gaze flicked toward a maid standing beside the puppet general, and she couldn't help but feel a surge of astonishment. "Is she a puppet?" The craftsmanship was truly unbelievable. The way the girl moved was indistinguishable from a real human. To be able to carve something so lifelike and control it with such absolute perfection, to split one's focus to this level, was unheard of. "Your reputation is well deserved, puppet general, a true master of the art of puppetry." She continued, getting straight to the point. "I have come here with a single purpose. Before we officially declare war on the Martial Arts Alliance, we need to consolidate our strength." At the mention of declaring war, the puppet general finally looked up. "If it's a matter of such importance, you must have a task for me. I've taken your money and I will give it my all. Speak. Who do you want me to deal with?" He held up the figurine he had just finished carving, a sinister smile playing on his lips. "But before we make a deal, you might want to test my strength first." Bach. Tu-nya nodded slightly, her voice as calm as a mirror-still lake. "Naturally, I will honor our agreement. However, I want you to conduct this business under a different identity, a nameless assassin." The man's thick brows, hidden in the shadows, knit together. "So I act now." "There is no need to rush," Bach Tu-nga replied. "Prepare yourself. By tomorrow's sunset, I will bring a test subject to verify your skills." With that, she turned to leave, her white robes drifting gracefully into the night, yet in her heart, the ripples had not yet settled. Just what kind of person is this puppet general? The cold, deathly aura radiating from him always made one shiver to the marrow of their bones. A mysterious smile crept onto his lips. A nameless assassin, huh? Interesting. Back in the present night fell thick and heavy. Bach Tu-nya stood outside the haunted house, her eyes piercing through the rotting wooden door, observing every movement inside. She thought to herself, in a way that foolish errand boy is the perfect stone to test the depth of the puppet general's strength. All I need to do now is wait for the results inside. Inside, the general began the show. He summoned a female puppet with hair trailing a meter long and skin as pale as death, crawling out to scare the test subject. Through the puppet's eyes, he saw clearly that the intruder was just a wet behind the ears kid. Tiu Ma flinched, but in an instant he regained his composure and did something completely unexpected. He bowed deeply to apologize. Big Sister Ghost. I didn't know this was your private residence. My apologies. I shall take my leave at once. With that, he turned to run, but another white shadow appeared blocking his exit. This second ghost looked even more ferocious, with eyes red as blood and a face twisted in hatred. This kid doesn't look like a martial artist at all, the puppet general mused. Surrounded by the two sisters, Tiu Ma started awkwardly scratching his head. Ladies, I really didn't mean to break in here. I ended up here completely by accident. This has nothing to do with me. Tiu Ma's almost absurd calmness began to make the puppet general suspicious. Could it be that this kid is deliberately hiding his true strength? He decided to greet him more directly. The two female ghosts on the floor suddenly dissolved into thin air. In their place, a sharp, invisible killing, intent yet as tangible as a blade of ice, slashed straight at Tiu Ma. Sensing the deadly danger, Tiu Ma didn't hesitate. His body shot up like an arrow. He landed lightly on the floor, eyeing the path of the strike. That was definitely not a ghost. He stood tall, his voice no longer fearful. Who exactly are you two? The puppet general was slightly surprised. The kid's movement technique was truly agile. He didn't answer but waved his hand. Several more puppets lunged from the dark corners like hungry beasts attacking Tiu Ma in unison. Tiu Ma looked at the puppets with disgust. I told you if you aren't ghosts, then... Before he could finish, the puppets roared and lunged. Outside, Bak To-nga sensed the battle had truly begun when suddenly her pupils contracted. A lethal blade of energy without warning was slashing straight at her. Whoosh. Luckily, her skills were not ordinary. She tilted her body, dodging by a hair's breadth. Anger flared up and she shouted into the shadows. To think you would even try to kill me. The puppet general wanted to test her strength. He had always been curious about this mysterious woman. The blade was now pressed against her throat, but Bak To-nga didn't use a weapon. She raised two long white fingers and pinched the blade, which was trembling violently. You really are a bastard. You have absolutely no business ethics, she hissed. The puppet general was stunned. Deflecting my blade without a weapon, could it be? The ultimate technique of the Dihua Palace legend had it their finger art could split the heavens and crack the earth, known as the 3,000 finger strike. And the only heir to that immortal technique was none other than Bak To-nga. The thought barely finished when he saw her fingers flick. Clang. An invisible force shot out, and the blade in his hand shattered into hundreds of pieces. The puppet general was slightly confused. He didn't know why. She had sought him out, but he knew one thing for certain. This woman was the very target the Ma Lin Citadel was hunting. Bak To-nga slowly reached toward the puppet general, her voice cold as ice. Puppet general, you have just committed a fatal mistake. She began to channel her inner energy, the atmosphere around her becoming razor sharp. 3,000 fingers strike, middle finger, first strike. The puppet general didn't back down. He commanded his strongest puppet to lunge. The prestige of Bak To-nga was built upon this legendary finger art. Pop. A flick of her forehead, just a light flick toward the puppet's forehead, and the puppet, that had been full of murderous aggressive intent just a moment ago, suddenly froze, then shattered into pieces. Right in the middle of its forehead was a perfectly round hole looking just like a donut. The killing intent radiating from Bak To-nga flared intensely. She shouted, her voice as cold as a blade's edge. It's not over yet. 3,000 finger strike, phoenix triple claws. Her long, slender fingers closed into a sharp claw-like shape and lunged straight at the puppet. The invisible force pierced the giant wooden puppet, which immediately shattered into fragments. A low, amused voice resonated through the air. Not bad, this little girl. Not bad at all. Seeing that things had gone quiet, Bak To-nga cautiously moved inside. The scene before her left her stunned. The mess of wooden puppets lay shattered among the debris. Ma was holding a small puppet, naively shaking it back and forth. "Hey, tell me, how exactly do you guys move?" Bak Tonya couldn't believe her eyes. No way! The puppeteer had controlled all these puppets at once. What a monstrous ability. At the same time, the hidden figure was furious that their entire work had been destroyed. "Looks like I'll have to take care of this myself before things get out of hand." A black shadow darted from the rafters, landing in the wide courtyard under the moonlight. It was a tall figure clad in imposing armor. He looked up at the crescent moon, his voice raspy with excitement. "It's been a long time since my blood boiled like this." A bloodthirsty smile appeared on his face. Without warning, he lunged, swinging his blade in a lethal strike toward Ma. Luckily, both Ma and Bak Tonya reacted just in time, dodging by a hair's breadth. The blade sliced through the air, leaving a deep gouge in the stone floor. Seeing the terrifying power of that strike, Ma dropped his naive act. His eyes became sharp and serious. Watching from afar, Bak Tonya couldn't help but be horrified. The power was immense. A few strands of Ma's hair had been severed by the blade's wind. They drifted away in the air. Before he could even steady himself, the ghost general attacked again. His swordsmanship wasn't fancy, it was pure brutality and murderous intent. Each swing hissed with a gruesome tearing sound as it sliced through the air. Ma moved flexibly, stretching the distance to safety with just a few steps. Seeing he couldn't get close, the ghost general roared and hurled his massive blade directly at him. Boom! The blade slammed deep into the ground, shaking the entire area. The ghost general leaped from the air, his bloodshot eyes fixed on Ma. "No matter who you are, you die today," he bellowed, rushing forward like a wild beast. But before he could unleash his fury, a shadow blurred past. Ma delivered a thunderous kick straight to the general's face with such force that it sent his massive body flying. He crashed over 300 feet away, smashing a large hole into a stone wall. However, since he was just a puppet, he felt no pain. Witnessing the lightning-fast exchange, Bak Tonya's eyes widened in utter disbelief. Ma's attack was too fast, so fast that the naked eye couldn't even follow it. Could the rumors that he defeated the black and white twins be true? The ghost general heavily dragged his body from the rubble and slowly stood up. "You've got talent, kid, but this body is indestructible." Another earth-shattering strike was unleashed. Boom! The ground cracked again. Observing from afar, Bak Tonya analyzed the situation. The massive, heavily armored figure moved with unbelievable lightness. That great blade weighed at least 100 pounds. A single graze would be fatal, yet that servant boy was dodging every attack by less than a finger's width. Hundreds of moves had passed, but the ghost general still couldn't even touch the hem of Ma's clothes. He was like a cunning ape, constantly tumbling and weaving in front of the blade of death, making the general grind his teeth in rage. "Stand still, damn you!" the ghost general roared, swinging his blade horizontally, aiming to chop Ma's legs off. "In your dreams, old man," Ma shouted back, suddenly springing into the air. He used his own head to execute an iron headbutt, slamming it directly into the ghost general's mask. Crack! A crisp snapping sound echoed. The ghost general's armored head was flattened like a sandwich by the heaven-shaking blow. His massive body wobbled and then collapsed to the ground. Bak Tonya was once again shaken to her core. The ghost general's head. Yet the giant puppet slowly struggled to get up. He reached up with both hands, grabbed his caved-in head, and pop! With a sound, he pulled it back into its original shape as if nothing had happened. Ma was surprised and slowly approached. A kid with zero internal energy, yet his martial arts have reached this realm. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. Ma curiously stepped forward and tapped his finger against the armor's chest. The sound echoed clink clink. It was hollow. He muttered, "Empty. Then who exactly has been talking to me all this time?" "It is I." The seductive voice didn't come from the armor, but drifted down from above. Both looked up. Under the silver moonlight, a graceful silhouette stood on the rooftop. Her long hair fluttered in the night breeze. Truly interesting children. Hearing the word children, Tue Ma's expression turned sour. He thought to himself, I might be older than your mother. Meanwhile, Bok To Nga was paralyzed. She couldn't believe that woman had been using only a thin, almost invisible silk thread to control a war machine like the Ghost General the entire time. Tue Ma scratched his head and asked cluelessly, So who are you? There was a time when people called me Gui Gui. The woman interrupted, her voice filled with a distant nostalgia. Rio? Now I'm afraid few remember that name. He rubbed his chin thought for a moment and honestly replied, Sorry, but this is the first time I've heard it. The atmosphere plunged into silence. But in Bok To Nga's mind, a lightning bolt had just struck. Gui Gui, she clearly remembered hearing that name somewhere. Suddenly, a pure white snowflake landed gently on the back of her hand, melting into a freezing streak of water. Bok To Nga looked up at the sky in horror. Snow. How can it snow in this weather? A terrifying blast of cold air visible to the naked eye was radiating from the woman on the roof, causing the entire surrounding area to begin freezing over. She stood there, her feet seemingly not touching the roof tiles at all. Hovering in the air, Bok To Nga whispered, her voice full of dread. Then, as if remembering an ancient legend, she blurted out the name that had once spread terror. Could it be the snow goddess of Heaven Mountain, Bok Nangui? The woman slowly descended. Her hair was white as snow, her eyes pale and soulless. Despite bearing the title of a century-old demon, her figure was as youthful and graceful as a spring maiden, with skin as white as the first snow of the season. Memory of Ma Lin's citadel inside the grand hall, the 10 great masters were whispering. They say, Baden, someone is using the human puppet technique to control the Ghost General at Hoanak Valley. Why are you interested too? Interested in what? A sluggish voice rose. I was just thinking of someone who also really likes this game. It's Gui Gui. That name made the air heavy. Gui Gui, could it be the snow goddess of Heaven Mountain, the one who painted the entire martial arts alliance red with blood hundreds of years ago? Wow, has it really been a century already? Time flies so fast. Tell me, Ghost Empress, just how many years have you actually been alive? The one called Ghost Empress chuckled. I don't remember anymore. Once I passed 100, I stopped counting. The wicked ghost, who was sitting to the side sipping tea, suddenly interjected, But if it's the Heavenly Mountain Snow Maiden, isn't she the one who created the ice-white divine technique? He gestured with his chin toward the white ghost. Then that would make her your ancestor, wouldn't it? The white ghost slammed the table in anger. Ancestor, my foot. The ice-white divine technique is something I mastered myself from the secret scrolls. Back in reality, Bok To Nga couldn't help but shudder. A legendary demonic mastermind who vanished for over 100 years. Why would she be hiding in such a dilapidated house? That errand boy, no matter how strong he might be, how could he possibly be a match for a living legend like that? Ghost Empress landed in front of Tue Ma. With milky white eyes staring up at the moon, her voice sounding both lethargic and utterly ruthless, she said, This is the first time this old lady has stepped outside, after 100 years of solitude. So you two better make sure to entertain me. A murderous aura and freezing cold burst forth simultaneously, making the very space around them seem like it was cracking. Yet, despite that, Tue Ma still wore a blank expression. I don't understand why I'm obligated to entertain you. His brain began working at full capacity. So this woman is the real owner. As for that girl, the image of the pure icy jade beauty that Bok To Nga held in his heart shattered into pieces. A fraud, using a beauty trap to lure me in here. The house is already damaged and ruined like this. If this landlady makes me pay for damages, I'll be losing money and suffering for nothing. The ancients say, he who knows when to retreat is the true hero. Thinking this, Tiu Ma immediately raised his hand. He gestured for a parley. Hold on, I can fully understand your pain and loneliness over the last 100 years, but first, let me clarify something. He pointed straight at Bak Tonya, his voice full of frustration. Over there, ma'am. Do you see that lying girl? She's the one who said this was her house and even tried to seduce me. Bak Tonya froze, having absolutely no idea what the hell this guy was talking about. Tiu Ma continued loudly. I mean, if there's any compensation to be paid, you should ask her instead. Ghost Empress didn't even bother to glance at Tiu Ma. She brushed past him indifferently and gave a flick of her sleeve. Move aside, you. With just a light flick, a wave of invisible force swept Tiu Ma up, sending him flying like a bullet, slamming hard into the wall and sinking deep into it. My first concern isn't you, but that little brat over there. Me, Bach. Tunya stepped back in horror. You should be careful with every answer you give, little girl. If one is not of the direct bloodline of the Dihua Palace, the family's ultimate techniques are never taught to outsiders. Tell me, how did you learn the 3,000 fingers? The aura radiating from her was as heavy as a crushing mountain, making drops of cold sweat roll down Bak Tunya's temples. She realized immediately that the woman before her was the legendary Ghost Empress, an existence she had no hope of challenging. Her eyes instinctively glanced toward Tiu Ma, who was lying unconscious. He lost consciousness. Even though she felt guilty, now was not the time to worry about him. She had to escape this place at all costs. But just as that thought sparked, a black shadow shot up from the ground like an arrow. The ghost general was attacking again. Bak. Tonya reflexively raised her hand to use her finger technique, but the moment her two fingers touched the blade, she felt something different. The blade was no longer ordinary metal. It was coated in a strange, frigid, demonic inner energy. The ghost general roared, putting his strength into a blow that sent her flying backward. Bak Tonya struggled to land, her arm numb. He didn't give her a second to rest. Rapid-fire attacks kept coming, forcing her onto the defensive. While blocking Bak, Tonga's mind spun rapidly. The ghost general is just a puppet controlled by the Ghost Empress's fingertips. As long as that old woman doesn't stop, I absolutely cannot escape. Ghost Empress's voice rang out again. 100 years ago, when the Dihua Palace was wiped out, I heard that one single female descendant managed to survive, hiding and relying on Ma Lin City. Perhaps that is you. A flash of determination sparked in Bak Tunya's eyes. There was only one chance. She suddenly stopped resisting, slowly touched down, coughed a few times to suppress the pain, and lowered her head. Her voice carried a hint of respect. This junior's eyes were clouded, and I failed to recognize my senior. It was truly rude of me. If everything that happened from the start could be considered as never having happened, this junior would be incredibly grateful. As soon as the words left her lips, her body blurred into a shadow, and she launched a surprise attack. She thought the move would catch the old lady off guard, but the reality was much crueler. Around Ghost Empress, a thick layer of freezing mist automatically condensed, creating an invisible but incredibly sturdy shield. The old lady spoke coldly. With just a little smoke screen and not even a poison mist, you think you can escape from my hands? I have no intention of running away. Bak Tonya screamed from within the toxic smoke. Dihua Palace, ultimate technique, 3,000 fingers. She tore through the smoke, appearing like a goddess of war, pouring all her inner energy into her hand, creating a brilliant golden aura. This was her third move, the strongest one she could execute, powerful enough to tear apart a slab of granite. Yellow Dragon. 5 claws. The energy-formed dragon claws roared forward with destructive power. Bak Tonya had already imagined the scene of the old Ghost Empress being torn to shreds, but that was only in her imagination. In reality, her full-force attack didn't even create a scratch on Ghost Empress's freezing shield. Seeing the lackluster level of her junior, the old lady shook her head, her voice filled with disappointment. To have learned the mysterious martial arts of your ancestors and only reach this level, how truly regrettable. Before Bak Tunya could even collect her thoughts, she felt something ice-cold press against her chest. The withered hand of Kwai Kwai had appeared there before she even noticed. The ice-white divine technique. A familiar skill, but in the hands of Kwai Kwai, its power was 100 times more terrifying than that of the white demon. A piercing, bone-chilling cold energy surged straight into her body. Bone-seizing sound, wind palm. Boom! The strike didn't make a loud sound, but Bak To Ninga felt as if her ribcage were being crushed. She couldn't breathe. The frigid energy rampaged through her internal organs, freezing every cell and vessel. The pain was so icy it reached her very marrow, leaving her with only one thought: if she didn't undo this, if she didn't get rid of this cold energy, she would die. Kwai Kwai stood there, towering like an eternal snow-capped mountain, looking down at the dying prey at her feet. The old woman coldly asked, "So now, have you finally decided to answer my question, Bak?" Tunya's body trembled violently, her lips turning purple from the cold. She struggled to choke out each word. "I don't know anything." The girl's stubbornness seemed to have drained the last of Kwai Kwai's patience. The old woman slowly raised her hand, and an invisible force lifted Bak Tunya off the ground, tightening around her throat. Kwai Kwai remained expressionless. Her aged eyes stared straight at the girl, her voice devoid of any emotion. "It's fine if you don't answer." Bak Tunya struggled in vain. The air grew thin, and her consciousness began to sink into darkness. As she hung suspended in midair, the raspy voice of the old hag, Kwai Kwai, echoed out. "Under the cold moonlight, you are the last descendant of the Dihua Palace. Yet why is the daughter of Bak Lin Fai so pathetically weak?" She looked down at Bak Tunya, whom she was still choking, her eyes gleaming with contempt. "Back in the day, your mother was one of only 3 women in the world who dared to confront me head-on. The first was a sword attendant who could overwhelm the imperial sword Tranjiangak of the 72 Manhwa swords. The second was the head of the 4 Sichuan Tang clan, the 9 heavens goddess Duong Tiu Dung. And finally, your mother, the mistress of Dihua Palace Bak Lin Fi, successor of the 3 heavens pool." She reached up to rub her left shoulder, her voice laced with hatred. "This shoulder was broken by her. This wound has tormented me for 30 years, and to this day, it has yet to fully heal." Bak Tunya struggled to reply, each word gasped out, interspersed with heavy breaths. "My mother's business has nothing to do with me. Nothing." Kwai Kwai sneered, her grip tightening even further. "You think you know why the Dihua Palace was destroyed? Why your mother, a heroine of her time, ended up dying such a pathetic death? Tell me the secret of immortality." What secret of immortality? Bak Tunya's complexion was deathly pale from oxygen deprivation. "I don't know. If such a thing existed, my mother wouldn't have died. If you won't speak, then die." A casual voice rang out from below. Kwai Kui turned her head in shock. Tiu Ma was standing there, wearing a goofy grin, scratching his head. "Sorry to interrupt while you two are busy. Can I go now?" The old hag narrowed her eyes. Since when did this brat get here without her even knowing? Tiu Ma continued, looking innocent. "Even though I caused some trouble, I really didn't mean to. Just now I almost died too, you know. The puppets I smashed. I were just in self-defense. Let's call it even. You hit me first, I hit back. This debt is settled. Save me." Bak Tunya's desperate plea cut Tiu Ma off. "Please, save me." Tiu Ma glanced at the girl who had tricked him and shrugged. "Sorry, lady. This doesn't seem to have anything to do with me." With that, he waved goodbye and turned to walk away nonchalantly. Watching his back recede, Bak Tunya gathered her remaining strength and shouted 2 raspy words. "5 tails!" Tiu Ma's steps faltered. His entire body stiffened. In his head, the words 5 tails echoed over and over. He turned back, his face twisted in annoyance, acting reluctant. This old hag is really strong, you know. Seeing a glimmer of hope, Bak Tonya gritted her teeth. 10 tails. Tu Ma looked down, a secret satisfied smile forming on his face. Old lady, are you really planning to kill her? 10 tails. Transaction complete. Noticing that Bak Tonya's life force was fading, Tu Ma lowered his voice. Let her go. Kwai Kwai sneered with disdain. You fool. She flicked her finger, and the ghost general puppet lying on the ground suddenly sprang to life. It swung its blade at Tu Ma's back, but he simply tilted his body, reached out one hand, and lightly grabbed the puppet's wrist, twisting it. Crack! The entire arm of the puppet snapped off. The silk control thread in Kwai Kwai's hand also snapped. Both women were horrified by that lightning-fast strike speed. Tu Ma glanced at the now useless puppet and dropped his voice, repeating again, Let her go. From now on, she is my client. And if I don't, you'll regret it. As he finished speaking, Tu Ma's silhouette seemed to shrink and then suddenly appeared right beside Kwai Kwai. He unleashed a thunderous punch. Kwai Kwai managed to raise her hand to block it. If this punch is all you've got, then... Before she could be smug, a roundhouse kick appeared from her blind spot, slamming straight into her ribs. Boom! Kwai Kwai's entire body was kicked flying into the ground like a tattered ball. Losing control, Bak Tonya fell freely. Are you all right? Tu Ma asked, his voice weary. Bak Tonya whispered back, Yes, thanks to you. Under the moonlight, the image of Tu Ma catching her seemed so solid and steady. He turned and gently told her, Step back. From here on out, I'll handle it. That moment, the image of the young man full of spirit made even someone as proud as Bak Tonya feel shy. Blushing, the old hag. Kwai Kwai slowly stood up and dusted off her robes, but her mind was in a state of sheer terror. Not a single trace of internal energy, no sign of inner power yet. Where did this pure brute strength come from? How could someone without martial arts foundation possess such world-shaking combat ability? She didn't rush to attack. She simply tapped her foot, and from the ground, the war machine, the ghost general, rose once again, looming like an iron mountain. Kwai Kwai gently pressed her hands onto the puppet's body. Streams of freezing white life force poured from her palms into the puppet, causing its eyes to glow with a ghostly light. It had been reborn stronger than ever before. Let's see just how much you can entertain me, brat. With a wave of her hand, the ghost general lunged. It was no longer a heavy, sluggish machine, but a steel arrow tearing through the wind, rushing at Tu Ma at supersonic speeds. A storm of attacks was unleashed. Every punch and kick carried enough power to level a hill, but its opponent was Tu Ma. In his eyes, those violent movements became slow and full of openings. It might look stronger, but at its core, it was still just a rigid puppet. Dodging. A vertical sword strike, Tu Ma slipped into the ghost general's blind spot and threw a punch. Boom! A muffled explosion rang out. Tu Ma's pure internal force burst forth, piercing straight through the thick armor, leaving a gaping hole in the puppet's chest. Just as the rumors said, his fist was no different from a mobile cannon. Seeing the puppet heavily damaged, Kwai Kwai took immediate action. She waved her hand to create a razor-sharp wind palm strike, attacking Tu Ma to distract him. The moment Tu Ma raised his hand to deflect the attack, but the demon's figure had already dissolved into the air. Suddenly, she appeared right beneath him, like a phantom rising from the earth, her jade-white but deathly cold hand pressing straight against his chest. With a hidden wind palm strike, a ghostly white seal carrying the chill of the underworld hit his chest squarely, and the vicious cold energy instantly invaded his meridians, sending him flying. Launched into the air, the demon didn't give her opponent a second to rest. She leaped up, delivering another strike even more powerful than the first. Little Ma took the hit. Buried deep into the rubble, the phantom image of the demon appeared beside him, her voice cold. It's best if you don't move. Who are you? Having taken 2 of my hits, The cold poison should have frozen your internal organs by now." Before she could finish, little Ma slowly sat up. He gently exhaled a breath, and a plume of white smoke released from his mouth, carrying out all the cold poison that had just invaded him. This sight left the demon, an old devil who had lived for 100 years, stunned. Her white pupils constricted. An astonishment never seen in a century appeared on a face that seemed to have lost all emotion. Little Ma rubbed his chest, his expression still calm. "Oh, it was a bit cold. Just a little, but not enough to kill me. Immune to cold." The ice-cold immunity. The demon muttered, "No, this realm is even higher than that. This physique. Could it be the one that only exists in legends, the null spirit body? A pure vessel that contains no internal energy, yet can absorb and transmute all forms of energy from heaven and earth." She stared intently at little Ma, her voice carrying confusion for the first time. "What on earth are you?" "Let's see. I'm not really sure either," little Ma answered honestly. "I'm just a errand boy." With that, he lunged forward, a rain of strikes descending upon the demon. She realized with horror that his martial arts had absolutely no rule to follow. Unpredictable, like a raging torrent. This footwork, this punching style, it couldn't be mistaken. It was exactly like the martial arts of that person. Could it be? As another punch flew toward her, this time the demon didn't dodge. She caught little Ma's fist with her hand. "Now I understand your true nature." Little Ma didn't understand what she meant, but a heaven-shaking energy exploded from the demon's body. Snowflakes began to condense around her, no longer possessing a gentle beauty, but sharp as razor blades. The ambient temperature suddenly dropped below freezing. A terrifying blizzard with her at the center spread outwards, freezing everything in its path. Bai Tunga only had enough time to look terrified before her entire body was covered in a thick layer of ice. Little Ma was no exception. In the space of white silence, the demon slowly walked in front of the frozen little Ma. "It really is so similar," she whispered. "The only man who ever made this icy heart of mine tremble." The demon's jade-white cold hand gently touched little Ma's face. A name seemingly buried for 100 years of solitude softly escaped from her lips. Fai Long. Memories came flooding back, a lovely little girl with silver hair playing in a flower garden. The girl's eyes lit up when she saw a beautiful crimson rose. "I used to love flowers so much, but I could never touch them." The small hand couldn't help but reach out to touch the petals, and immediately the delicate flower was covered in a thin layer of ice, becoming brittle and shattering. Her mother rushed over. "I told you already, my dear, you should only look at them." Suddenly, from the other side of the stream, the whispering of villagers echoed. They pointed fingers, their eyes full of fear and disgust. Then, a panicked scream ripped through the peace. "Look, it's the snow demon, the monster living on Heaven Mountain. Why did they come down to our village?" The mother and daughter looked at each other in confusion. The mother's voice trembled slightly. "Can they hear us?" "Even if they can hear us, so what, Mom?" The little girl, the demon, asked innocently. "Did we do something wrong?" But a child's logic could not defeat the prejudices of adults. A sharp rock flew through the air, thrown straight at the girl's forehead. The stone wasn't large, but the throwing force of an adult was enough to make the demon feel intense pain. A stream of bright red blood trickled down, and tears welled up. The little girl thought to herself in her misery, "I always wanted to make friends, but I never once had a friend." Blind rage spread as fast as a plague. A few children in the village, following the adults, grabbed sticks and rushed forward screaming and chasing the mother and daughter. "Get out, you monsters! Go back to your mountain! This is not a place for you!" Helpless and in pain, the mother and daughter could only quietly leave, carrying the resentment that could never be explained. That night, in a cold cave on the peak of Heaven Mountain, the mother gently applied medicine to the wound on her daughter's forehead. Her face was still as gentle as water, but in Her eyes shone a deep sorrow. "Demon, sleep well tonight. Tomorrow morning, as soon as the sun rises, we will leave this place." "Why, Mom?" the little girl asked, confused. Her large, round, tear-filled eyes looked up. "It's their fault. Why do we have to leave?" Looking at her innocent, poor daughter, the mother's heart felt like it was being crushed. She didn't know how to explain the cruelty of the world. The demon began to sob violently, her cries choked with emotion. "Why do we have to hide? Why do we have to live in the shadows? What crime have we committed? Why do they treat us like that?" At that time, I was too young to understand. I didn't understand why I had to live in the darkness. Why I couldn't touch the beautiful flowers, why I couldn't make friends, and why even crying was a luxury. Suddenly the entire cave shook violently. Debris fell from the ceiling. "Danger!" The mother panicked, grabbing her daughter's hand to run outside. They had just escaped the cave mouth and thought they were safe when a horrifying scene struck their eyes. Dozens of hunters with weapons ready, their eyes bright with greed, had surrounded them. "Who are you?" the mother screamed, shielding her daughter behind her. The leader was a man with a scarred face and a cruel smile. Rumor has it that the snow demon of Heaven Mountain possesses a core that can multiply one's internal power. If you obediently hand it over, we might give, you and your daughter a painless death. "What core?" she shouted in despair. "We are humans. We don't have that thing." But her explanation was like wind passing by their ears. Not a word more. The hunters roared and rushed in to attack. The mother channeled all her internal energy to create a blizzard to push the demon far away, then charged into the life and death battle alone. The sound of metal clashing was deafening, and savage roars echoed throughout the mountain. A while later, amid the chaotic storm, the mother's weak voice whispered, "My daughter, are you hurt? Anywhere?" She reached out a trembling, blood-stained hand to touch her daughter's cheek. "My daughter is very strong. You can live well without me, right? You must be resilient and strong. And survive. You must live." "Mom, what are you saying?" the demon asked innocently, tears streaming down. "You sound like you're going to die." "If you live as your mother says." She smiled, her breathing becoming weaker. "One day, my child, you will meet someone who truly understands and loves you, so until then. Until that day comes, you must promise your mother you will live on. Can you promise me?" Guigui realized then that her mother would no longer be by her side. She wept, hot tears rolling down her frozen cheeks. "My daughter, you must stay healthy." As the final words faded, her hand dropped limp, her last breath vanishing into the cold air. "The price of the heavenly mountain. I cannot promise that." "No," the little girl wailed, shaking her mother's body. "Without you, I cannot live. Please, mother, don't die, mother. How am I supposed to go on alone? Found you, little brat." The ringleader, though heavily wounded and disheveled, crawled over with a chipped blade. He stared at her with bloodshot eyes. "Don't worry, you'll be reunited with your mother soon enough." In that moment, something inside me died, and something far more terrifying was born. I swore that I would repay this world for all the pain it had inflicted upon me. Guigui's consciousness sank into the darkness. The extreme agony shattered every chain, awakening a terrifying hidden power within her. Her entire body glowed with the color of blood and hatred. An inhuman scream tore through the air. Sorrow, rage, and resentment, a snowstorm of destructive power erupted from her small body, engulfing the entire group of hunters in eternal ice. From that day on, I committed countless sins. The panicked screams of the martial arts world echoed in my ears. "It's Guigui, the monster from Heavenly Mountain is here." I slaughtered the entire martial alliance all by myself. From an innocent little girl, I became a cold-blooded assassin until I met him, the only person who made this frozen heart beat again. Fei Long. Guigui's aged hand gently rested on the unconscious face of Xiao Ma. "I thought it was just a guess yet, in the form of this boy. I find the shadow of Fei Long. You have been missing for so long, why are you so similar? Even if you are Fei Long's son, the thick ice surrounding Xiao Ma began to crack. A shattering sound rang out, growing more intense, then boom. The cold energy dissipated. He had completely broken free. He let out a sigh of relief, Xiao Ma's eyes flashing with a fighting spirit. Well then, let's start over. But to everyone's surprise, Guigui turned away, the killing intent on her body fading. Forget it, she said, her voice slightly petulant. I have no reason to fight you to the death. Furthermore, if my guess is correct, then... She flicked her sleeve, and the ice covering Bai Tuo shattered instantly. Guigui's figure gradually became translucent. You must have many questions. Don't be in such a hurry. Her words were like mist lingering in the air. Whether you want to or not, sooner or later, you will know everything. She vanished. Her image disappeared completely. Bai Tuo clutched her still frozen arm, unable to believe it. Even the terrifying Guigui was just a puppet. Hey, you scammer! Xiao Ma suddenly spun around, pointing straight at Bai Tuo's face. She blinked, looking innocent. She fluttered her eyes, acting helpless. Xiao Ma was trembling with rage. How dare you look down on me, Soma? You tricked me, and I will definitely... A coin was immediately tossed over. Bai Tuo crossed her arms and tilted her chin, her tone condescending. From now on, I officially appoint you as my personal errand boy. Thinking Xiao Ma would be thrilled, she didn't expect him to ignore her, his voice turning serious and grave. It's funny, because of you this whole valley, and me too, have been dragged into danger. Xiao Ma swiftly scooped everything up into his arms, cleared his throat, and his expression turned deathly serious. Since I've taken the money, I have to work. Tell me, where do we start? Bai Tuo saw this, and a satisfied smile graced her lips. Meanwhile, in the Harmony Valley, a tall figure clad in black armor, carrying terrifying killing intent, had appeared. He was the Kung Ma Palace Demon. He approached the young man who usually handled business with Xiao Ma. His voice was deep like a temple bell. Is it you? The young man looked up, looking confused. The errand boy Soma of Harmony Valley, Kung Ma asked again. The young man smiled gently and pointed at the temporary closed sign set up next to Xiao Ma's stall. If you are looking for... Soma, please go this way. Kung Ma glanced at the sign, then turned away, leaving behind a voice as cold as ice. Pass this message to him. Kung Ma is looking for you. Hearing the two words, Kung Ma, the smile on the young man's lips vanished. He slowly stood up, his gaze turning sharp. A 6th grade guard of the demon spirit city. It seems war can no longer be avoided. Suddenly, Kung Ma turned back, but the young man's seat was already empty. In an instant, a cold, sharp point thrust toward his back, a lethal attack, but no, the sword blade was easily clamped between Kung Ma's bicep and armpit. You brat, he growled. His eyes turned bloodshot, and black necrotic energy erupted from his body like a storm covering an entire corner of the sky. The young man closed his eyes calmly, sensing the overwhelming demonic energy. It looked light, but it was incredibly heavy. As expected of the Kung Ma, the Kung Long breaking heaven. Blade. If there were a ranking of the 10 great martial arts, this blade technique would certainly hold a spot. It is also known as one blade certain death. Legend says the one who masters it can split Mount Tai and part the seas with a single strike. But the requirements for training are extremely harsh. One must possess the innate yin-yang body, or have internal energy of at least 3 Hua Giap, 180 years. Since the beginning, except for its creator, the Iron Mountain Blade Emperor, no one has been able to master it. Past Jiangnan City, a bustling market, people coming and going like ants. The sounds of hawking and bargaining rang out loudly. amidst the prosperity. Ngo Van Thuong, the master of the first sect of Jiangnan, was a name everyone knew. He was the wealthiest tycoon in the Central Plains, nicknamed the Golden King. His land was vast, and his gold and silver were piled as high as mountains. But no matter how much wealth he had, it couldn't compare to the only son he had in his twilight years. To Ngo Van Thuong, this child was the most precious treasure in the world. Phi Lu, the seventh-generation heir of the Ngo family, was like a candle flickering in the wind. Born with a physique weaker than even the frailest of children, his existence was a worry that gnawed at Ngo Van Thuong's heart day and night. The words of the famous doctor were like a knife to his heart. "Master, the young master is barely hanging on. I fear he will hardly see the coming of next spring." From that moment on, Ngo Van Thuong, one of the richest tycoons in the Central Plains, waged a lonely war against fate. His orders were sent throughout the world. Whoever found a miraculous medicine to prolong his son's life would receive anything they desired from the Ngo family. And so, a journey of burning money to buy life began. As soon as Phi Lu was born, the life energy of the great imperial pill, the secret medicine of the Shaolin sect, was poured into his fragile body. His first-year birthday party didn't feature ordinary sweets, but thousand-year-old snow ginseng from the peak of Changbai Mountain that had finally achieved spiritual essence. At 3, he was fed 9-leaf grass from White Mountain, a divine herb said to help a 100-year-old woman regain her youth. At 7, precious treasures like red bamboo jade marrow and snow lotus seeds from the heavenly mountain became his daily food. The peak was at age 10 when he was given the earth dragon blood treasure, a spiritual medicine with the power to bring the dead back to life. "Master, please, stop. The young master cannot absorb any more." Even though his servants pleaded until they were hoarse, Ngo Van Thuong turned a deaf ear. His love for his son had become an obsession. Blindly, the cost of those spiritual medicines combined was enough to buy out an entire empire. The business empire of Ngo Van Thuong began to waver, then collapsed. Report Sect Master, 12 towers, and all the trading rights in the Jiangnan region have been sold off. All that remains are a few wild forests worth next to nothing. But Ngo Van Thuong just coldly waved him away. "Keep going until Phi Lu can grow up on his own." Finally, when Phi Lu turned 15, a earth-shattering transformation occurred. After taking 2 extreme internal cores, at the same time the Fire Spirit Core, a 1,000-year-old core of a fire python with extreme yang energy, and the Ice Jade Core, a 1,000-year-old core of an ice serpent with extreme yin energy. His body couldn't take it. Purple veins bulged all over his body. His throat was as dry as a desert. His moans were nothing but heat. "Water, water." Ngo Van Thuong screamed in panic, but Phi Lu didn't need anyone's help. He lunged like a wounded beast and threw himself into the waterfall next to the house. A bizarre scene unfolded for 5 days. His body became like a living furnace. The heat radiating from him turned the entire stream into a boiling pot of water, steaming until it ran dry. 5 days later, the heat vanished. In its place was the cold of a frozen hell. The freezing mist radiating from his body encased the majestic waterfall in a giant block of crystal. When people broke the ice to rescue him, Phi Lu had been completely reborn. The countless spiritual medicines and the 2 opposing yin and yang energies had forged a one-of-a-kind physique, the yin-yang body. A perfect constitution for martial arts, but the price paid for this miracle was the total collapse of an empire. From the wealthiest tycoon in the Central Plains, Ngo Van Thuong was now just an old man in a shack with mud walls. "You understand now, right?" Ngo Van Thuong's voice was hoarse. "Our family's estate declined to this point, all because of you. From now on, I'll let you be independent. Remember that." Just then, a voice deep and resonant like a bell rang out from outside the door. "Old brother Van Thuong, are you in there?" A man with a solid build and the aura of a grandmaster stepped inside. That was Tong Dai Hao, one of the 12 elders of the Martial Arts Alliance. Neo Van Thuong was overjoyed. "Brother Dai Hao, you've arrived." After a few cups of tea, Tong Dai Hao looked at Fai Lu with eyes as sharp as if he could see through someone's very soul. He said in a low voice, "Strange. The Fire Spirit Core and the Ice Jade Core are two extreme energies. Taking them at the same time should have made his limbs swell up and explode, killing him." Ngo Van Thuong interjected by saying, "Brother, you don't know. Inside him lies the essence of countless miraculous medicines in this world. There is no child with a more solid foundation than him." Tong Dai Hao nodded slightly, his gaze boring into Fai Lu's dantian as if he were sensing something. "So that's how he gained the yin-yang body, huh?" He finished the cup of wine in his hand and then slammed it onto the table, making a major decision. "Van Thuong, I can take him as my disciple and teach him martial arts, but you must understand that this physique is both a stroke of fortune and a curse. The training process might just kill him." After the fateful negotiation, Tong Dai Hao dragged Fai Lu to a sky-high mountain in Jiangnan. The wind howled, carrying a biting chill. Fai Lu looked down into the deep, bottomless abyss below, where rolling clouds obscured everything. No bottom in sight. "Jump!" Tong Dai Hao spoke in a hoarse voice. 10 go down, 10 die. Even a top-tier expert would be wary of this vertical cliff, let alone a brat. An easy like you. Without a word of warning, the old man delivered a kick straight to Fai Lu's chest. "No need for long speeches. Survive and come back up, then we'll talk." Fai Lu was sent flying off the cliff. His small body plunged into the endless abyss, leaving only his desperate, frantic scream echoing before it faded into the howling wind. That was the start of his hellish days. Tong Dai Hao's cursing became the background music for Fai Lu's life. "You useless thing, you possess the yin-yang body with the internal power equivalent to 180 years of training, and this is all you can do. Look at your stance. Listen closely. Wild Dragon Breaks the Heavens is a powerful, peerless saber technique, but precisely because of its crudeness and might, it is full of openings. You must engrave this mantra into your heart. When you need to be light as a feather. When you need to be heavy as Mount Tai." The memory faded, giving way to the cruel reality. Wild Dragon Breaks the Heavens, first move. Dragon Slash. Fai Lu roared, swinging his blade with destructive force. The blade went through whatever it touched, slicing the mad demon's body apart. The villain shrieked in agony, grinding his teeth. "You damn bastard! The Martial Arts Alliance!" "Oh, Special Action Team, Captain Fai Lu. Mission accomplished." The joy of victory flickered and then vanished. The scene before his eyes blurred and shattered like a mirror. So, it turns out, that was just an illusion. He had been hit by the soul death poison, a peculiar toxin that caused no pain. It attacked the brain, directly creating sweet hallucinations that lulled the victim into a state of victory and happiness until the moment they died without ever knowing. While Fai Lu was still dazed, the mad demon slowly walked forward and snatched the saber from his hand. He unleashed a lightning-fast punch straight into Fai Lu's stomach. The punch dragged him out of the dream. He flew backward and smashed into the stone wall. The piercing pain brought him back to his senses completely. It was just a dream, an illusion from the poison. Even though he was beaten to a pulp and his internal organs felt like they were in turmoil, Fai Lu's hands still gripped the hilt of the blade, tightly refusing to let go. The mad demon looked at the scene somewhat surprised. Even with his consciousness fading, he won't let go of the blade. This kid's will is truly ironclad, not to be taken lightly. But so what? You still have to die, you brat. He roared, channeling all his strength, jumping into the air and diving down like a burning meteorite, aiming straight for Fai Lu's small body. Die! Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out. The ground where Fai Lu stood cracked, creating a deep pit. Dust choked the air, obscuring everything. One would think Fai Lu had been crushed into powder, but when the smoke cleared, an unbelievable sight emerged. Fai Lu, with both feet sunk deep into the ground, had used his own saber to block the mad demon's destructive attack. "No, Wei," the mad demon said in horror. "You must have eaten some kind of divine object to be able to neutralize the soul death poison on your own." Fai Lu gritted his teeth, his muscles all over, his body tensing up. His voice was hoarse from the exertion. "It seems that to defeat you, the level I showed before is not enough, right, mad demon?" He let out a heaven-shaking shout, unleashing all his internal energy to knock the mad demon away. Standing up straight, he looked at the monster in front of him. His mind raced. If it wasn't for Master force-feeding me all those miraculous medicines since I was a kid to forge my body, I probably would have died just now. "Don't think I only have poison, you brat!" the mad demon roared. Quick as a flash, he appeared beside Fai Lu and delivered a high lethal kick aimed at his temple. Fai Lu hurriedly raised his hands to block, but the sheer force sent him flying straight into a nearby house. The people inside panicked, screaming and scattering in all directions. Fai Lu slowly pulls himself up from the rubble. Blood trickles from the corner of his mouth, his expression one of extreme frustration and tension. "That bastard's armor is made of 10,000-year cold iron. It's impenetrable. The power in his arms is completely overwhelming, and his speed is so fast that the naked eye can barely keep up. But the deadliest thing about him is his poison arts. He is a grandmaster of toxins." "Haha, looks like you've got a sharp eye, kid." Kwang Ma laughs triumphantly. In Fai Lu's mind, memories of his past self resurface. That day, he crawled out of the 10,000-foot deep gorge, exhausted and covered in wounds. An iron will, forged in hell, flares up in his eyes once more. He has to survive no matter the cost. The first rays of morning light hit Fai Lu's battered face. He gasps for air, whispering, "Finally, I made it out." Just as he manages to pull half his body over the cliff's edge, a splash of strong liquor hits him squarely in the face. "Not bad, kid. You've got guts," a booming voice echoes. "Seeing you in this pathetic state shows me you aren't the type to give up easily. I'm pleased, but you kept me waiting a bit too long." That morning on the windy mountain peak, master and student sat together, looking down at the vast, deep blue mountain ranges. "Fai Lu, do you see that mountain split in two in the distance? That is Iron Mountain," his master Dai Hao says in a deep contemplative tone. "I brought you here because this is where the Iron Mountain Blade Emperor created the Dragon Blade technique years ago." Fai Lu is stunned. "Master, does that mean that mountain was split by a single strike from the Blade Emperor?" Dai Hao nods. "This blade technique has 9 forms, but given your talent, it would be a miracle if you could master 3. The subsequent forms are beyond imagination. Watch carefully." The first form, Coiling Dragon Slash. Dai Hao's eyes suddenly turn cold, his aura surging to the heavens. And this, the second form, Heaven-Breaking Dance. Returning to reality, Fai Lu drops to one knee and jams his sword into the ground. A brilliant sword aura erupts from the blade, forming a circle of light that surrounds him. All of Kwang Ma's pitch-black poisonous mist is by this light, pushed back, creating a pristine space right in the middle of the dead zone. Kwang Ma stares dumbfounded, then looks up at the clear blue sky above. Not far from there, on a sunny hillside, Tio Ma is diligently running errands. He holds a large paper fan, waving it to create a breeze for Bak Tonga, who is leisurely sunbathing. Seeing him fanning while distractedly looking into the distance, Bak Tonya frowns and barks, "Hey, what are you doing? Focus on the fanning." Tio Ma jumps hurriedly, replying, "Ah, yes, I'm doing it right away." Back to the battle. The area now looks like a giant arena formed in the valley. The wind howls through the stone crevices. Kwang Ma narrows his eyes. This brat used sword aura to expel all my poison. Could it be that the rumors about the leader of the Martial Arts Alliance's special forces having mastered the 5 forms of the dragon blade technique are actually true? Opposite him, Fai Lu is on high alert, his body taut as a bowstring. The poison was only temporarily pushed back. That man's entire body is a living toxic weapon. If my breathing falters for even a second, I'm a dead man. Kwang Ma's hands beneath the iron gauntlets begin to glow red-hot like molten lava. Originally, this trip was just to teach that brat Tu Ma a lesson and drag that girl. Bak. Tunga, back with me, he mutters. Fei Lu stares fixedly at those hands, thinking, it's not just his body. His hands are the most terrifying part. A pair of toxic hands capable of melting steel must be hidden inside those custom-made gloves. Kwang Ma growls, I didn't expect to run into you, but even if you are the Special Forces leader, don't think you can stop me. A long fight only works against me. I have to finish this in one strike. Thinking this, Fai Lu's body turns into a bolt of lightning, lunging straight at Kwang Ma. Sword light flashes, slashing repeatedly at his opponent. In a split second, hundreds of strikes are unleashed, but Kwang Ma's armor, made of 10,000-year-cold iron, is too sturdy, and it's shielded by a thick layer of protective internal energy, making all of Fai Lu's attacks meaningless. Just as he attempts a decisive blow, Fai Lu's sword is suddenly caught bare-handed by Kwang. Osama, body, is that all the skill you have? He sneers. With a light flick, Kwang Ma tosses Fai Lu into the air, then unleashes a devastating punch, driving him headfirst into the ground. His hands hot as volcanic rock lunge forward, aiming to finish Fai Lu off. He rolls back in a hurry, creating some distance, but before he can steady himself, a kick from Kwang Ma follows. Boom! The terrifying force of the kick sends Fai Lu flying through several walls. In mid-air, with a tremendous effort, he twists his body and jams his sword into the ground to break, his fall carving a long trench into the shattered tile floor. His appearance is disheveled, yet he still exudes an indomitable heroic aura. Holding the upper hand, Kwang Ma lets out a savage laugh. His voice sounds like grinding metal filled with contempt. Well, well, the celebrated leader of the Martial Arts Alliance's special forces only has these measly tricks. Are you underestimating me, refusing to use your full strength? Fai Lu struggles to get up. The blood at the corner of his mouth only highlights the exhaustion on his face. Seeing his prey weakened, Kwang Ma doesn't give him a second to rest, charging like a beast. Fei Lu desperately brings his blade up to block. The sound of metal clashing is deafening, showering sparks into the night. What are you hiding? Is there some other scheme afoot? Kwang Ma roars. Every punch he lands makes Fai Lu's blade vibrate violently. Small cracks begin to appear on the blade. Fai Lu knows that if he keeps clashing head-on like this, his weapon won't be able to hold up. Regardless of your schemes, Kwang Ma growls, before absolute power, all plans are meaningless. The moment he finishes speaking, Fei Lu suddenly drops his center of gravity. A kick fast as lightning and carrying sharp kinetic force strikes straight at Kwang Ma's chin. The earth-shattering impact sends the iron helmet flying into the air, revealing a grotesque appearance with messy long hair and bloodshot, thirsty eyes. Not bad. Kwang Ma licks his lips. Mediocre blade technique, but not bad footwork. He suddenly unleashes a killer move. The Demon Emperor's soul-breaking stamp. His palm, coated in a layer of deadly necrotic energy, snaps toward Fai Lu. He dodges to the side, but the unlucky tree behind him is not so fortunate. Kwang Ma's hand barely grazes it. The ancient tree immediately buckles, its sap boiling and emitting black smoke, rotting away in an instant. Let's see how long you can keep dodging. Exploiting the opening, when Fai Lu had just dodged, Kwang Ma unleashes a mountain-shattering punch, aiming straight for his ribs. Ugh! A dry, hollow sound rings out like The sound of bones cracking. His body is sent flying, crashing into another tree, deforming strangely. He trembles, only able to emit painful moans. Kuang Ma slowly steps forward, thick, necrotic energy radiating from him. From his body comes this toxic gas. He calls it the firebone corpse poison. He explains with sadistic delight that it drains the life force from everything it touches. Plants wither at its contact, while humans slowly transform into a dried-up husk. If I let this spread, the entire Huanak Valley will be a wasteland within an hour. He leans down, staring directly into the fading eyes of Fai Lu. Still clinging to life, kid. What can you do now? You thought you had the victory in the bag, didn't you? But he didn't realize that this was the very moment Fai Lu had been waiting for. The dazed eyes of the boy suddenly flared cold and sharp as a blade. All signs of weakness vanished, replaced by a terrifying killing intent. Azure Dragon Slash First Form. A pitch-black blade crackling with dragon power slashed forward. The demon barely dodged it by a hair's breadth. That was just the beginning. I haven't fully mastered the heaven-breaking dragon blade. But it's enough to send you to your grave. Fai Lu's movement technique, the heaven-breaking dance, became erratic and fluid. His relentless sword strikes formed a dance of death. Even though the demon was caught off guard, he was a seasoned master. He let out a roar, and with his bare hands, he swatted Fai Lu's blade, sending it flying into the air. You little brat, look closely at my face and burn it into your memory, for that is the last thing you will ever see. This is pain, unlike anything you've ever felt. He gathered his strength, dark energy pulsing as he prepared the finishing blow. But facing death, Fai Lu remained, eerily calm. He looked up at the sword hovering in the sky. It is said that only when a blade is infinitely light and impossibly heavy can swordplay reach the realm of no end. He reached his hand forward. The heaven-breaking dance was just the prelude to this single strike. The one-hit, one-kill strike, Azure Dragon, heaven-breaking blade, third form, lightning flash. As the words left his lips, the night sky suddenly tore open with thunder. A bolt of lightning didn't strike the earth. It struck the hovering blade directly. The sword flashed with blinding light, and vanished only to reappear in Fai Lu's hand. In a fraction of a second, the demon's life was officially over. He collapsed, his eyes still wide open, unable to believe what had just happened. Seeing the pitch-black blood flowing from the wound, Fai Lu frowned. I didn't expect his blood to be so toxic. He sheathed his blade. His voice echoed throughout the valley. Special ops gather. Take the demon's body and clear the scene as quickly as possible. From the shadows, dozens of dark figures emerged, silent and disciplined, falling into two rows before bowing in unison to Fai Lu. The young man's true identity was finally revealed. This victory was not just a matter of luck. It was a game of life and death where Fai Lu had wagered his very existence. Trained since childhood with countless miraculous elixirs, his body had become nearly impervious to poison. The kick that sent the helmet flying was just to mark the target for the killing blow. Intentionally allowing himself to be wounded, even letting his weapon be knocked away, was all to lull the opponent into a false sense of security, creating a fatal opening. What looked like a reckless fight was in truth a meticulously calculated plan worthy of a captain of the Martial Arts Alliance Special Ops. His strength was unfathomable, but this rank clearly wasn't his limit. After a period of trials, filled with turbulence, Tu Ma was finally promoted from a trainee errand boy to a formal errand boy for Bak Tonya. He strained his back, pulling a heavy cargo cart while looking back at the ruins and the aftermath of his epic battle. Suddenly, an ice-cold shout cut through his thoughts. Why are you standing there, daydreaming? Get moving. Obeying the boss's order, Tu Ma jumped in shock and scrambled to run for his life, looking no different from a water buffalo during plowing season. Life is like that, misfortune always lurks. In the hidden corners you never expect, just that your naked eyes aren't sharp enough to notice it. At a small eatery in the valley, the tragedy was officially signed. Bok Tonya elegantly pushed a contract in front of Tio Ma. He picked it up and squinted to read every line. Contract duration 1 month. Regardless of whether there was work or not, he would receive 1 ounce of silver daily. Bosh. Tonya sat opposite, sipping tea, her lips curling into the mysterious smile. How about it? This can be considered a full-time job with excellent benefits. Interested. Too interested. Hearing this, Tio Ma's simple brain stopped working. Without a second thought, he hurriedly dipped his finger in ink and pressed his thumb onto the paper, sealing a fateful deal. Across the table, Tonya's smile grew even brighter. Clearly, the innocent fish had taken the bait. There is a great saying, life if viewed from a distance is a comedy, but up close it is a tragedy. And I, Tio Ma, the most illustrious errand boy in Huanak Valley, would like to tell you how the tragedy of my life began. Everything started with feeding dinner, to Bok Tonya. I am eating, so stop talking. Can't you wait until I'm finished? She frowned in annoyance. It was all her fault, Bok Tonya. If one had to rank the most evil and vicious employers in martial arts history, she would definitely take second place because no one dared to contest the championship with her. People think that having the honor of bathing her is a blessing. Fifth, forget it. I advise you not to get your hopes up. What you are imagining will only leave a painful scar on your soul. Every day, I have to do all sorts of God-forsaken chores, washing dishes, sweeping the floors, doing laundry. Those are just the simplest tasks on a never-ending list. Look, bathing under this summer rain. My body feels so refreshed, she said while I stood shivering in the rain. For the first time in my life, I hated the rain this much. Do you see how blue and cool the sky is today? She asked again while I was sweating buckets under the scorching sun. Blue and cool, my foot. I just wish this sky would disappear so I could get some rest. Gulp. Tio Ma downed a bottle of water to quench his thirst. Finally, a moment of rest. Whoosh! A ceramic bowl flew at him. He quickly reached out to catch it. Go to the upper stream and bring me some water. Bok Tonya's voice rang out. Water is everywhere, why? Must it be spring water? Is it that hard? I muttered. I said I want spring water. Are you deaf? Her face looked like a demon demanding a soul. Ah, no. Tio Ma hurriedly waved his hands. My point was, there are many types of spring water. I wasn't sure which one the young lady wanted, so I could go get it. On the way, a traveler carrying a wooden barrel walked by, eyes wide with shock, as he saw Tio Ma carrying a basin of water filled to the brim without spilling a drop. Then he also witnessed him moving giant boulders and doing other extraordinary tasks. Curious, he approached and asked, Kids, may I ask, why is that young man doing such terrifying work? The innocent children replied, Oh, so you're new to Huanak Valley, aren't you? How could you not know, Brother Tio Ma? At the end of the day, after much effort, the work was finally completed. A small man-made mountain has finally been built by the very hands of the last remaining little pony. I never expected it would be this exhausting to move it. People usually think, what a meaningful day this has been. It's been a long time since I realized that the sunset could be this vibrant and beautiful. But in reality, the little pony is thinking, good grief, this day is finally over. And does everyone realize all of this happened in just one single day? Oh heavens, how can a day feel as long as a millennium with a face full of bitterness? He turns to look at Bok Tonya, who is leisurely sunbathing. They say a hungry tiger won't eat grass, so why must the final demon king of the gopher world be forced to serve such a cruel and evil employer? The worst in history like her. No, if it isn't me, nobody else can teach her the true hardships of this job. I thought I was going to start a world-shattering revolution. But never mind. Ahem, excuse me, miss. He runs over and holds out a piece of paper. I want to ask about the contract I signed with you. It isn't a slave indenture, is it? Because if it isn't, then why do I work like a dog all day doing so many things only to receive exactly 1 tael of silver? Bak. Tung-ya lazily opens her eyes and uses a long, slender finger to point at a tiny line of text at the very bottom of the paper. It truly is a slave indenture. And you see the footnote written here. Tu-ma snatches the paper from Bak Tung-ga's hand and skims through it. The more he reads, the paler his face becomes. Under his signature, Nguyet Ngoch, was a tiny paragraph, added in ink that looked almost identical. Article 1. In the event that the servant does not follow the master's orders, the servant must compensate 10 times the contract value. Article 2. The servant does not have any legal right to resist the master. Tu-ma is left speechless. He finally understands everything. At Ma Lin Citadel in a quiet study, the sound of rustling book pages echoes steadily. The person reading is Thietma Truong Nahach Kwan, ranked 4th among the 10 great experts. Nearby, an old man with 3 long scars on his face is sipping wine, glancing sideways, asking, "A failure that disastrous. So that is Huyen, Ma Tu, Ma Than the mad demon, and he was defeated too. Unbelievable." A sharp female voice rings out. The speaker is Ku Tien Huyen. Nu Duong Tiu Dung, ranked 3rd, who is nonchalantly chewing on a venomous snake. The second-ranked lightning sword, Bak Chio Van, silently wipes his sword, but his eyes are as sharp as lightning. Finally, the person sitting at the highest seat, Hon Thien Ma Huang Lang, Kam Hon, speaks in a deep, gravelly voice, carrying immense pressure. Could it be that there is a monster hiding in Huanak Lung? He slams his hand on the table. I can not let these flies annoy me forever. Pass the order down. In 10 days we officially declare war on the Martial Arts Alliance. On the dreamy shores of Tu-hai, an old ferryman stands silently by the wooden bridge, as if waiting for someone. Not long after, 2 figures appear and step onto the boat. The boat, made of danvu wood, glides gently across the deep purple sea. One of them bends down to scoop up some seawater. Legend says the water of Tu-hai is heavier than normal, and no creature can survive in it. Sure enough, it is true. This person is none other than Dai Hao Fi Lu's master. The other, carrying a long spear on his shoulder, laughs heartily. That is why one can cross the Tu-hai without using a danvu wood boat. Dai Hao, this is your first time coming to the headquarters, right? This is one of the 12 elders of the Martial Arts Alliance. Vokuk Than Truong Thach Gia Thien. It is, Dai Hao replies. But Gia Thien, have you reached the realm of returning to youth? How come you still look so youthful? Haha, jealous. If you want to, you can do it too. Thach Gia Thien replies happily, then asks, on your way back, did you meet your disciple Fai Lu a month ago? I saw him leading the special forces to Hoa Nak Lung. If it was a month ago, I was probably still lost somewhere. That kid promised to act discreetly, but according to the latest news, your disciple has crippled a leader of Ma Lin Citadel. Thach Gia Thien speaks, the smile on his lips fading. Dai Hao muses, Ma Lin Citadel. You are worried this will ignite a war, right? 10 years ago, after that heavenly demon murdered the northern heavenly martial emperor and seized Ma Lin Citadel, their influence grew to a point that cannot be ignored. 10 years. It is more than enough for him to digest everything. Dai Hao strokes his beard. And now their spearhead is pointed directly at the Martial Arts Alliance. Sigh, it seems nowhere in the world is peaceful anymore. At the Martial Arts Alliance headquarters, in a solemn hall, an emergency meeting is taking place. Although 12 elders were summoned, only 5 were able to come. Everyone is busy with martial arts matters, please forgive them. A bald man, Tien Long Truong Hua Tu Chuang, speaks up. A chubby elder, Viem Vuong Thoat, Fach Tan Long Kiet, nods. Hua Tu Kuang continues. The current martial arts situation, after the demon sect and blood sect were suppressed, basically maintains the balance created by the previous leader of the Flying Dragon Alliance. But now, The most urgent problem is the strength of Ma Lin Citadel. Another elder speaks up. According to intelligence, the combat power of Ma Lin Citadel is concentrated mainly on the 13 city lords and 10,000 troops under their command. If that were all, it wouldn't be hard to deal with. Hua Tucuang shakes his head, looking serious. The problem doesn't lie there. The key is their leader, Hunthian Ma Huang, and the 10 great experts under his command. That is the real threat. Inside the Martial Arts Alliance headquarters, the atmosphere is as heavy as lead. On a giant military map, the finger of Tong, Dehao decisively points to a dark, treacherous valley. There is only one place, he says in a low voice, Ghost Soul Valley. If this notorious assassin group joins forces with Ma Lin Citadel, the entire northern defense line will collapse. We do not have enough troops to resist such an alliance. Elder Jiathian continues, looking worried. If Ghost Soul Valley gets involved, the pressure will be immense. Currently, we have no spare strength to provide reinforcements. The entire martial arts alliance is struggling to deal with the hungry wolves lurking on all sides the Martial Emperor city. In the east, the Heavenly King's mansion in the south, and the Thanhai 18 families on the coast. Where is there a place that isn't eyeing our foundation? Tan Longkiet turns, his gaze toward the head seat, where an old man with white hair sits silent as a statue. Great Elder, do you have any wisdom to offer? The Martial Arts Alliance. Great Elder, that Tuyet Bavuong Doan Tam. Tui finally opens his eyes slowly. His gaze is as deep as if it contains 100 years of martial arts upheavals. The master of Ghost Soul Valley, Dasoa, since the era of the Flying Dragon, he is one of the first living legends. Dasoa's martial arts are deep and unpredictable. If he joins hands with the Heavenly Demon, the leader of Ma Lin Citadel, the Martial Arts Alliance is certain to be defeated. He pauses for a moment, then continues. To prevent this tragedy, I have secretly sent an emissary to Ghost Soul Valley. Everyone is shocked. The emissary is the deputy manager of our alliance, Lai Quan Nak. According to the schedule, he must be close to Hoan Hak Lung by now. As he searched for the way to the valley, the Grand Elder placed a secret report on the table. It was the final news. The person had mysteriously vanished from the boat while it was docked at a bustling inn. By the river at Hoan Hak Valley, the atmosphere was a complete contrast to the tension at the main headquarters. Tio Ma was happily devouring a table full of food, while Bak Tao Ni, also known as Bak To Nya, pushed a small, exquisite porcelain bottle toward him. This is a premium sauce specially recommended by the chef. You should eat more. The benefits for permanent staff are quite different. Tio Ma ate while grinning from ear to ear. It's nothing like when I was a temp. No wonder everyone wants a permanent position. Thao Ni gently stirred her tea, her sharp eyes fixed on him. So, you said our earliest memory was of that nameless woman. Yeah, that's right, Tiu Ma replied, his mouth still full. She said, from now on your name is Tiu Ma. The name was given to me by her. Do you know her name? No. So you don't even know who you are. You just listened to her and wandered all the way to Hoan Hak Valley. That's right, I don't know who I am. Tiu Ma nodded. But I know she was a good person, not like those people who specialize in tricking others. Hearing the snide remark, Thao Ni narrowed her eyes. So aside from that name, you don't remember anything else? That's right, that's right. Tiu Ma's mind held only one thought at that moment. Oh, pork knuckles, my favorite dish. Looking at the fool in front of her, a turbulent wave rose in Thao Ni's heart. Who in the end? Is he a person who uses only raw combat techniques, yet can use his bare body to neutralize the demonic arts of the spirits? His sense of balance is so perfect that even while carrying a bowl of water, through a storm, not a single drop spills. On top of that, he has monstrous strength capable of moving a hill. And most importantly, he is immune to all types of poison. She glanced at the porcelain bottle on the table. Inside was not sauce, but a deadly colorless and odorless poison. She just wanted to test him, but the result only made her more bewildered. Tu Ma suddenly frowned. Hey, didn't you say this was a special sauce? I don't taste anything. Where is the flavor? That sentence was like a wake-up call. Thao Ni knew she could no longer hesitate. She set down her teacup, her expression becoming unusually serious. Tu Ma listened carefully. Soon the martial arts alliance and the demon spirit city will go to war. Hearing of war, Tu Ma finally looked up, his expression a bit surprised. If we look at the big picture, the demon spirit city is no match for the martial arts alliance. Thao Ni continued to explain, but their city lord, the heavenly demon, is an extremely cunning man. He knows the martial arts alliance has too many enemies right now, and he has chosen this exact moment to strike. Back at the martial arts alliance headquarters, an elder asked, Grand Elder, is the intelligence report that Demon Spirit City is about to declare war completely accurate? Doan Tam Thui nodded. Completely accurate because this news comes from one of the highest-ranking leaders of the Demon Spirit City. The entire hall buzzed with commotion once more. That person voluntarily contacted us asking for protection for their life in exchange for top-secret intelligence. But our meeting was exposed, forcing that person to flee immediately. Currently, they are hiding in Hoanak Valley. Who is that person? The Grand Elder placed an exquisite token carved with a plum blossom image on the table. It is the daughter of the former Di Hoa Palace Mistress. Upon hearing the words Di Hoa Palace Mistress, everyone was shocked. Could it be Bak Thao Ni, the eldest daughter of the Demon Spirit City? On the upper floor of an inn, Phi Lu sat perched by the window, his eyes silently observing Tu Ma and Thao Ni on the street below. Beside him, a guard was diligently fanning the charcoal stove, carefully grilling skewers of meat to nourish his captain. Suddenly, a mocking voice rang out, breaking the silence. Well, well, who is this? The legendary captain of the Special Ops. Why do you look so pathetic, like a sick cat today? Phi Lu turned back. A young man with squinty eyes and a mischievous smile was already standing there. Does everyone recognize him? It was the strange guest who had stared in astonishment at Tu Ma's display of strength earlier. Phi Lu frowned. Is something the matter? Don't tell me you traveled all this way just to look at my face. Hey, the squinty-eyed guy replied, seeing that you're still alive and kicking. I guessed that the guy with the demonic energy, had already kicked the bucket. And you, this guy, you're nothing like Phi Lu at all. Seeing an old friend, you should at least say hello. The guard with a weary face sighed and answered for his master. Hello, sir, may I ask what brings you here? Hello to you too. The squinty-eyed guy grinned, then casually swiped Phi Lu's delicious grilled meat skewer and started devouring it. Even if you have eyes but can't see, you should at least have some humanity. You two heartless bastards. Chewing like a starving tiger, he continued. But don't worry, I didn't come here because I missed you guys. The guard watched the captain's nourishing meat skewer vanish at the speed of light and felt helpless, only able to cry internally. Oh my god, that's precious medicinal herbs cooked all night to nourish the captain. Phi Lu only glanced at the guy, once then turned away in frustration. So why are you here? This time I've come to meet the Valley Master of Spirit Soul Valley. The two words Spirit Soul Valley made Phi Lu's eyes twitch slightly. Spirit Soul Valley? Huh. But before he could finish, the squinty-eyed guy swallowed the last piece of meat, his eyes suddenly becoming razor-sharp, aimed directly at the street below. There is one thing I need to resolve cleanly here at Hoanak Valley. His gaze was fixed on the figure of the girl happily chatting with Tu Ma. He spun the wooden staff in his hand, his smile turning icy. It's her Bak Thao Ni. She has to die. The atmosphere around Phi Lu immediately became tense. However, he maintained his composure, his voice devoid of any tremor. Why, for what reason must she die, Phi Lu? Don't tell me you don't know who that woman is. Let's see, Fai Lu feigned thought. Do I need to know her name? Figures. You just received intelligence and set off immediately. You certainly didn't have time to update. The details. Listen clearly, you reported to us that Demon Spirit City is preparing for war. It's her. He paused, his voice dropping, full of subtext. She is the only survivor of the Di Hoa Palace massacre, and the only person who knows the whereabouts of the legendary immortal fruit. Only then did Fai Lu truly understand. That girl, Bak Thao Ni, is actually Bak To Nya, the descendant of Di Hoa Palace. She risked her life gambling everything to prevent a cruel war. Even so, the final result, what will happen next, no one can say for sure. At the dining table, Xiao Ma asked curiously, I'm not really into war stuff, but I do have a question by Cheoni, about her background. That question pulled Keoni's memories back to the Di Hoa Palace from many years ago, a place like paradise nestled atop a soaring mountain. White clouds swirled around the two sisters as they practiced martial arts in the courtyard. The elder sister moved with grace, performing a technique as fluid as a dance. Wow, big sister, you're amazing, Keoni cheered. She clapped her hands, her eyes sparkling with admiration. You try it too, Keoni, her sister said with a gentle smile. Keoni got serious, braced herself, and gathered all her strength. She shouted, Phoenix Triple Strike. Instead of slicing the clay pot in two, as expected, her technique just sent it rolling clumsily down the steps, where it shattered into pieces. That ultimate Phoenix Triple Strike looked no different from a chicken kick. Her sister patted her head, comforting her gently. It's okay, it happens to everyone the first time. But Keoni pouted, looking completely disappointed. Sister, I want to eat chicken feet. And so the two sisters sat down to eat. With a deep, passionate love for this dish, Keoni ate heartily. Sister, aren't you eating? The older sister rested her chin on her hands and shook her head. Just looking at chicken feet makes me feel weird. Weird? No way, it's delicious, Keoni innocently replied, her mouth still chewing. Smack, smack. I have to finish all these chicken feet. Only then will I have the strength to practice martial arts, hearing that her sister just smiled in satisfaction. The grueling days of Keoni's training began. Finger-flicking mastery, slingshot version. Her fingers flicked rapidly, but the leaf in front of her didn't even budge. Precision strike, forehead flick version. Phoenix triple strike, chicken feet version, day after day. Sweat and tears were shed. Finally, one day, her chicken feet technique successfully sliced a delicate leaf. The long-awaited effort had paid off. I did it. I did it. Keoni jumped for joy. Tomorrow I'll have to show off to sister. In the midst of Keoni's brief happiness, the whispering of guards outside drifted in like a bad omen. I heard, experts are flocking to the Three Evils camp. Isn't it the little princess's wedding in 2 days? But I heard another rumor they're coming here because of the immortality herb. Suddenly, a shrill scream rang out. Assassins! Keoni trembled, hiding behind the door to look out. The bodies of the loyal guards fell one by one. Keoni, are you? Okay. It was Xiao Tian, her elder sister. Keoni nodded in fear. Sister, what's happening? I don't know. The two sisters hurried to run away only to see their mother, the mistress of Dihua Palace by Ling Fei, fighting alone amidst a circle of enemies. Mother, Xiao Tian cried out. She turned back, her gaze cold, but determined. Turns out it's just a bunch of greedy fools. Xiao Tian, take Keoni and leave here at once. Hurry. She dove into the battle, her sword light glowing like a fire phoenix, blocking all enemies to carve a path for her two children. The sisters ran headlong, not daring to look back. Run with all your might. When they reached a hidden tunnel, heavy footsteps behind them made them freeze. A man as fat as a sow carrying a giant spiked mace blocked their path. Where do you two little rats think you're going? He sneered. Xiao Tian pushed Keoni behind her, her voice trembling but full of determination. Keoni, you run first. Don't look back. Then the girl charged straight at the monster. I ran like crazy. Fear had consumed my entire mind to the point where I couldn't think of anything else. But when I suddenly woke up in the cold forest, my sister was gone. I was all alone. Me, Xiao Tian's sister. Hot tears streamed down Keoni's cheeks. The pain of losing a loved one was like a knife cutting into her heart. Just then, a few figures emerged from the shadows. Looks like, we were one step late. What a pity. Dihua Palace once so proud yet destroyed in a single night. A woman from the demon spirit city stepped forward staring intently at Keoni. This child looks just like Bai Lingfei. Could she be, her daughter, little brat? Do you know where the immortality herb is? I lied. I said I knew. I said if they protected me, I would hand it over to them. But in this life there is no such thing as an immortality herb. If there were, it would have already saved my mother and sister. So that's why Demon Spirit City is chasing you? Xiao Ma asked. Keoni nodded, her gaze heavy. Yes, you wouldn't understand. On the rooftop, Fei Liu was deep in thought. Daring to risk your life to warn about Demon Spirit City's movements, she really is an admirable person, and she even knows the location of the immortality herb. Why does the Martial Arts Alliance want to kill her? The squinty-eyed man next to him scratched his head. In name to prevent a bloody war over the immortality herb, but in reality they just don't want it to fall into anyone else's hands. Think about it. If the Yaksha of Ghost Spirit Valley, or the heavenly demon of Demon Spirit City, gets it, what will happen to this world? But the order to kill Bai Keoni actually wasn't given to me, Fei Liu. The man was confused. It's the order meant for you, Fei Liu. The squinty-eyed man laughed. But I know for sure you won't do it right. Finishing his words, he suddenly attacked. The staff in his hand transformed into a wooden dragon, unleashing the beggar's staff technique, lunging straight at Bai Keoni. But she wasn't the target. A powerful force pierced through, leaving a huge hole in the roasted trotter that Xiao Ma was holding. Xiao Ma was stunned. He looked down at his beloved trotter, then looked up, his eyes blazing with rage. My trotter. He turned to Keoni, his voice full of worry. Hey you okay? The voice of Bai Keoni suddenly cracked, filled with a sense of sadness and helplessness. Are they trying to kill me again? She smiled faintly, a smile more bitter than Golden Seal. Maybe the Martial Arts Alliance decided to abandon me, or perhaps some assassin was hired to take my life for the prize. I don't care anymore. I'm used to it. A clear teardrop carrying so much resentment and loneliness rolled down her delicate cheek. Witnessing a Bai Keoni, who was always strong and sharp, suddenly become so weak, a strange emotion stirred in Xiao Ma's heart. An urge that even he himself could not name. She took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure, only managing to mutter two words. In an instant, Xiao Ma vanished so fast that Keoni didn't even notice. In front of her, now there was only an empty table. Upstairs, the argument between Fei Liu and the squinty-eyed assassin had reached its peak. Give it to me. Get out of the way. Just then, a voice cold, as ice drifted from the balcony, carrying a killing intent that made people choke. You're the one who ruined my favorite trotter. Li Junyue started and turned around. He sensed a deadly danger heading his way. Two auras of killing, intent, one cold and righteous, the other arrogant and reckless, collided in mid-air, creating an invisible pressure. Downstairs in the inn, diners started whispering. What's happening upstairs? Looks like a big fight is coming. Oh, these martial artists. There's no peace anywhere you go. Bai Keoni blankly stared at the familiar back, now feeling so distant, not knowing what to say. From a hidden spot on the roof, a few figures were silently watching from the building across the street. They were elite guards from the Special Task Force. Standing there, the view was clear, but one person murmured, Isn't this a bit too dangerous? Anxious, they asked the person next to them who just casually munched on an apple, and replied, "In my eyes, if you dare to interfere, that is what's truly dangerous." The first one asked, "What do you mean, don't you see?" What's happening up there? It's 3 monsters going at each other." The second person explained. "First is our boss, Fi Lu, the successor to the dragon-breaking Heaven Blade, who has already reached the 5th level. The second guy is Lai Quan Hak, Deputy Director of the Martial Arts Alliance, who holds the world-famous 36 strikes of the Beggar Gang's dog-beating staff technique. And finally, him." He paused, his eyes filled with caution. "A lowly errand boy with no clear background who used his bare hands. Oh, to take down the black and white twin ghosts. I'll bet you if we step in there won't even be a scrap of bone left." Upstairs, Lai Quan Nak twirled the bamboo staff in his hand, then hoisted it onto his shoulder with a goofy grin. "Hey now, it's all a misunderstanding, just a misunderstanding." Tiu Ma asked coldly, each word sharp as a knife. "You tell me what kind of misunderstanding could make someone to nearly die? No, let's say definitely die. Why be so serious?" Li Quan Nach kept his slacker facade, speaking with eerie calm. Tiu Ma took a deep breath. The air around him seemed to thicken. A pure primordial bloodlust began to radiate from him. "Calm, fine. Then first take one of my punches, and then we'll see about talking." He clenched his fist, the joints cracking loudly. His normally gentle face now looked terrifyingly bloodthirsty. Whoosh! A punch was thrown fast and powerful as a cannonball, even though Lai Quan Nak managed to raise his staff to block the terrifying force still sent him flying several meters, slamming hard into the wall. "Humph, nice punch, you bastard." Lai Quan Nak sneered, but his eyes no longer held a hint of mockery. Before he could regain his footing, Tiu Ma's silhouette like a hunting leopard had already closed the distance, unleashing a thunderous kick. The strike hit Lai Quan Nak squarely in the face, blasting him straight into the ceiling, his head becoming embedded in it. The guards standing nearby watched with their jaws dropped, eyes wide. Only Fi Lu kept a calm expression, as if he were too used to this absurd strength. Yet Lai Quan Nach still pulled his head out of the ceiling. There wasn't a single scratch on his face, only a look of intrigue. "This kid is actually interesting." He landed softly and dusted off his clothes. "Hey brother, I don't know what the relationship is between you and Bok Tao Ni, but with just this much power trying to take me down is a long shot." "Is that so?" Tiu Ma replied, his voice even colder. "Then I'll just use a bit more strength." Li Quan Nach didn't say another word. The bamboo staff in his hand vibrated slightly, and a wave of invisible force shot straight toward Tiu Ma. He smiled smugly. "Look at this. This is pure killing intent. This is real intent to kill." But facing that threat, Tiu Ma remained unmoved. Li Quan Nach narrowed his eyes. "I'm warning you, if you make another move, don't blame me for killing you." Before he could finish, Tiu Ma's fist had already lunged forward like a cannonball. But this time, Li Quan Nach didn't take it head-on. He spun the wooden staff in his hand, effortlessly blocking the earth-shattering blow. Boom! A deafening explosion rocked the place. The shockwave caused all the customers in the restaurant to panic, screaming and running for their lives. "They're fighting again. These martial artists always cause trouble. Run, good heavens. Why can't we have one peaceful day?" As soon as something happens, they start brawling. Ignoring the chaos around them, the battle continued to escalate. Tiu Ma threw a punch, and Lai Quan Nach immediately countered with a relentless barrage of staff strikes. He yelled, his staff turning into countless illusions, piercing the wall behind him. With a thunderous kick, Tiu Ma retaliated against a sweeping blow of the staff. The heaven-shattering, earth-splitting staff technique clashed in a vortex of fists and staves. Tiu Ma dodged while searching for an opening, and then the opportunity arrived. Bang! A jarring sound echoed. Lee Kuan Nak took a full punch, flying straight into the wall, leaving a deep, jagged dent. This one is the price for Bok Tao Ni's life. Tu Ma growled, his bloodlust surging. Despite taking a heavy hit, that guy still had enough strength to shout loudly. These two, they really don't know when to stop. Ignoring his words, Tu Ma lunged again. And this one, Benchi Dis Ao, is the price for my last pig's trotter. Boom. Two terrifying forces collided, creating a violent shockwave. The air was thick with enough killing intent to make an ordinary person standing nearby be torn to shreds. At this moment, the playful smile on Lee Kuan Nak's face vanished. He began to get serious. Pitch-black currents of energy, carrying a terrifying intent, began to radiate from his body. Extreme Intent Thunderstrike Staff. The staff in his hand suddenly thrust forward fast as a black bolt of lightning. Thwack. The attack pierced straight through Tu Ma's fist wind. The power was so strong it pushed him back several meters, but astonishingly, Tu Ma seemed completely unharmed. The more they fought, the more his bloodlust burned. He was about to charge again when Fai Lu's voice rang out. Stop for now. Tu Ma, that was one of the 36 moves of the dog-beating staff technique, one of the ultimate killing moves of the extreme Intent Thunderstrike Staff. Fai Lu caught a sword that had flown from nowhere, his tone becoming extremely serious. If he had really wanted to kill you just now, there might have been an extra hole in your body. Honestly, even for me, if he really went crazy, it would be very troublesome. Hearing that, Lee Kuan Nak laughed out loud. The pitch-black bloodlust on his body immediately receded, and his usual playful grin returned. If you had explained earlier, wouldn't that have been better? Thanks, by the way. Oh, and regardless, it's been a long time since I've seen such a spectacular show. He pointed at Tu Ma and asked Fai Lu, Hey, by the way, let me ask, who is this guy exactly? I'm not sure myself. I only know he's an errand boy here at this restaurant. Hearing this, Lee Kuan Nak looked bored and turned to leave. Suppose Bok Tao Ni finds the location of the immortality fruit. If the people from the Demon Spirit City and the Ghost Valley get their hands on it, Fai Lu, you'll have to take full responsibility. I'm leaving. Whether Bok Tao Ni lives or dies, that's your decision. As soon as he finished speaking, Fai Lu's guards had already lunged their sharp blades, pressed against the guy's throat. What the hell are you guys doing? He still acted clueless. Fai Lu slowly stepped forward, his eyes sharp as blades. Lee Kuan Nak has never considered me a friend. In his eyes, I have always been an enemy. Therefore, I need to make it clear, who exactly are you? At this point, the guy could no longer fake it, but instead of panicking, he wore a confident smile and raised both hands in a gesture of surrender. What are you talking about, Fai Lu? 5 months have passed. People have to change, don't they? Can't I even change my personality a bit? The more he explained, the more Fai Lu's suspicions grew. Fai Lu gripped his sword tighter. I have to find out who you really are. The air grew suffocating. 2 blades were pressed right against his throat, but he remained unnervingly calm. Fai Lu, if a little setback is enough to make you this paranoid, then how are you ever going to make progress? Suddenly, his body spun in a surreal motion, effortlessly slipping out of the blade's reach. Fai Lu and his guard were sent flying by a strange force. Ugh. He dusted off his clothes. You don't have to believe me. You can keep thinking I used some shape-shifting technique to impersonate him, but think about it. Is there anyone in this world who could perfectly imitate Li Junyu's martial arts? The dog-beating staff technique is the beggar sect's signature move. It's famous worldwide. Copying it isn't impossible, but he paused, his smile becoming arrogant. But there's no one who can execute it better than me. Fai Lu was stunned by the confidence in those words. It was almost impossible to refute. The man continued his mind games. So I'll ask you again, if you say I'm not Li Junyue, then who the hell am I? The room felt heavy. Filyu spoke coldly, his gaze unwavering. I'm not curious about who you are. I'm just shocked that someone in this world could perfectly mimic Li Junyue, from his looks to his martial arts. He kicked the ground, and a scroll flew up into his hand. You say, this is a secret order from the Martial Arts Alliance for me. Let me see. If negotiations with Ghost Soul Valley fail, Filyu must immediately execute Bai Chao Ni. A Martial Arts Alliance order. The seal is genuine. It really is from the Alliance. Filyu rolled up the scroll, his eyes sharp as blades. But I have one question. If you've met Li Junyue, where is he right now? The impostor smiled a smile devoid of any warmth. Let me think about that. And why should I answer your questions? I know why you're a fake, Xiao Ma suddenly interjected. That stench on you, it's sickening. If you're wearing a human skin mask, just rip it off yourself. I don't like having to tear it off someone's face with my own hands. Hearing this, the man laughed loudly. Oh, how disappointing. Was it that easy to spot? But since you both want to know so badly, why don't you come and find the answer yourself? Xiao Ma roared, then let's end this. Right here, right now. Boom! The three of them collided. In an instant, half the inn exploded under their overwhelming power. Dust filled the air. Watching from afar, Cao Ni gasped. She was stunned. They thought they had the upper hand, but no, the impostor held off both of them at once. He blocked the guard's staff and parried Filyu's sword, while his other hand stopped Xiao Ma's earth-shattering punch. Not bad at all, he smirked. With a single turn, he broke their pincer attack and threw them both back. The battle continued at a frenzied pace. Punches, kicks, and swords clashed with sparks flying. They fought from morning until noon. The very air was torn apart by the intensity of their internal energy. As expected, just using this body, Dan, to fight the two of you isn't enough. He suddenly backed away, both hands sweeping out to shove his opponents aside. Fine, if it's come to this. I don't need to hide anymore. A surge of deep blue internal energy erupted from his body, so powerful it made the air warp. I'll show you my true self. His terrifying aura spread, cracking the ground beneath his feet. Filyu and Xiao Ma both realized the man before them was far more dangerous than they'd imagined. Watch out, Filyu warned. If he shows his true face, everything he said might actually be true. His strength is on another level. Amidst the blue light, he began to tear through his clothing and the disguise on his skin. His short hair vanished, replaced by flowing, eerie, deep blue locks. An entirely different man appeared with sharp, angular features. His aura surged relentlessly. Filyu was terrified. This aura, it's on par with the 12 elders of the Martial Arts Alliance. No, it's growing. It's far beyond that. Xiao Ma stared blankly at the man, not with fear, but with pure curiosity. Filyu suddenly realized a horrifying detail. His pupils, they're blue. Could it be he's the azure-eyed Yaksha? Hearing that name, the guard standing nearby turned deathly pale, sweating profusely. How is this possible? Why would a Yaksha be here? That man, he's one of the 10 great martial arts masters, the azure-eyed Yaksha. Xiao Ma tilted his head, looking confused. Yaksha, what is that your name? Filyu gulped, trying to explain to someone who clearly didn't know the gravity of the situation. He's the Yaksha, the Valley Master of Ghost Soul Valley. He's one of the 10 great masters, a living legend. Oh really? Xiao Ma just nodded, his expression completely unbothered. Sounds pretty strong, I guess. His fighting style is all right too. That reckless attitude ironically sent a ripple through the Yaksha's heart. You insolent brat! But why? Is his body riddled with the Demon Emperor's soul-locking needles? That evil artifact is meant to seal martial arts and erase memories. Could it be someone wanted to cripple him, to still have this much strength while being filled with those things? This kid is truly interesting. While the yaksha was deep in thought, a guard behind him, driven by blind loyalty, couldn't hold back and lunged forward. "Die!" he screamed. "Stop!" Filyu shouted in terror, but it was too late. The guard's sword just touched the yaksha's invisible protective barrier and shattered into 1,000 pieces like glass. "Indestructible diamond," Xiao Ma muttered. A sickening crack echoed out. Both of the guards' arms were twisted like a rope by an invisible force, his bones pulverized. A golden glow radiated from the yaksha's body, not for defense, but for a counterstrike, suppressing his attacker until he was completely helpless. Seeing this, Xiao Ma turned back to the yaksha with a look of disgust. "Hey, old man, I appreciate you staring at me, but we're in the middle of a fight. If you keep staring like that, what am I supposed to do?" The yaksha's face remained expressionless. Xiao Ma kept rambling. "And I don't drink anything but corn silk tea, you know." He scratched his head, frustrated. Talking to him was like talking to a rock. The two just stared at each other. One was deep and unfathomable. The other was impossibly naive. Meanwhile, the poor guard was writhing in agony. Filyu rushed over to check on him. The protective barrier of his had twisted every bone in the guard's arms. "This isn't a normal injury. Leave this to me. Get out of here now." The guard gasped. "Captain, please be careful." Suddenly the yaksha began to laugh. "Ha ha, corn silk tea, ha 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 ha." His laughter wasn't joyful. It carried a terrifying force. A shockwave exploded, causing the entire inn shook like an earthquake. Tables and chairs toppled over, and the pillars cracked. The eardrums of everyone present felt like they were about to be shredded. Xiao Ma dug his ear, his face showing. "Annoying. Are you done yet? Then let's begin." He threw a punch, the fist slamming straight toward Ye Cha's face, but what he felt wasn't flesh and blood, it was a wall of steel. His expression flickered with slight shock. "That's right," Ye Cha said slowly, his face only tilting slightly, his body still standing as firm as a rock. "A man should indeed use his fists." He threw a punch. It was a counterstrike, looking slow and ordinary, but Xiao Ma was sent flying like a kite, with a broken string crashing through the floorboards and falling straight to the ground level. The customers down. They screamed in panic, trampling each other to escape like ants from a ruined nest. "Go, go! If you stay here, there won't even be bones left." At that same moment, Fei Liu decided to join the fray. His opponent was one of the 10. "Great experts, watch out. Your life is in danger too," Fei Liu shouted, partly to warn Xiao Ma and partly to reassure himself. From within the dust cloud, the figure, as tall as a mountain, appeared. Ye Cha said coldly, "You're wrong. Not in danger, but I'm going to take both of your lives." Fei Liu roared, using his legs to kick a wooden table toward Ye Cha. At the same time, a series of illusory slashes carrying razor-sharp blade energy were unleashed, but Ye Cha just indifferently waved a hand. The entire wave of blade energy was shattered, and the wooden table disintegrated into 100 pieces. Immediately after, Fei Liu lunged like a bolt of lightning, unleashing his strongest technique, the dragon-slaying slash. He thought this surprise attack would be effective, but Ye Cha simply raised one hand. With just one arm, he blocked the blade strike, which carried dragon-like power without a single scratch. Witnessing this scene, that was impossible to believe. Fei Liu's face turned pale with fear. Using his bare hands to stop the dragon-slaying slash, Ye Cha exerted a little force. A terrifying pressure erupted from his arm, crushing Fei Liu so hard his bones cracked. He was pinned to the floor like a bug, unable to move, having no strength left to resist. After a moment of trying to channel his power until his face turned purple, Fei Liu managed to sit up with great difficulty. "I haven't shown you everything yet," he roared, throwing his sword like a spear toward Ye Cha, but as the sword pierced through Ye Cha's figure, it dissipated like smoke. It was just an illusion, like a predator pouncing on a chicken. Ye Cha grabbed Fei Liu by the throat and lifted him off the ground. his deep voice filled with contempt. Whatever tricks you have left, bring them out and show me. Hanging in mid-air, Fei Liu wasn't afraid. He reached out and grabbed Ye Cha's collar, a flash of madness in his eyes. Then how about we go down together? At that exact moment, a cold beam of light flashed from behind the ruined wall. The flash lightning blade, Fei Liu's sword, which had been knocked away, now flew toward them like lightning. Carrying lethal intent, it aimed straight for Ye Cha's back. One would think Ye Cha would fall easily like the mad demon, but no, he didn't even bother to turn around. A large, calloused hand reached behind his back, clamping tightly onto the vibrating blade. This absurd level of dominance left Fei Liu stunned. What kind of monster is this guy? Ye Cha spoke coldly, his voice carrying deep disappointment. The dragon-slaying heavenly blade. The world's most supreme blade technique was never meant for stabbing people in the back. You are unworthy. Crack! He squeezed his hand, and Fei Liu's precious sword shattered into fragments. He tossed him aside like a broken toy, pinning him straight into the opposite wall. Truly pathetic. Hey! A shout rang out from afar. Xiao Ma lunged like a bullet, throwing a thunderous punch at Ye Cha's face, but it was the same old script. Ye Cha's large hand easily blocked the surprise attack. A terrifying recoil force surged back. Xiao Ma let out a pained scream, his arm feeling like it was about to snap. His entire body sent flying backward, dozens of meters. Ye Cha unleashed a kick, his foot crashing down like a collapsing mountain. Boom! The stone floor shattered. Xiao Ma didn't have time to dodge and took the full force of that devastating blow. He twitched a few times, then went limp, his consciousness gradually sinking into darkness. Ye Cha glanced at the body, gasping for air at his feet. Still breathing. Saint, stop! Fei Liu crawled up, struggling to buy time. Ye Cha turned, his eyes as cold as ice. Are you two just too weak, or did I expect too much? It's not exactly disappointment, but I don't want this trip to be pointless. Fei Liu trembled. He was truly helpless. The internal injuries caused by the mad demon were recurring. His weapon was shattered, and his desperate gaze turned toward Xiao Ma when, suddenly, it flashed with surprise. Ye Cha noticed it too. From within the dust, a figure slowly stood up. Xiao Ma's voice rang out hoarse, with rage and frustration. It's still too early. On his shoulder now was an entire massive house pillar as thick as a young elephant's leg. Seeing this, the corner of Ye Cha's mouth curled into a smirk of amusement. Ha! Xiao Ma roared, carrying the massive wooden pillar and lunging straight toward the god of slaughter. Now this is the main event. Boom! The giant pillar slammed straight into Ye Cha's head, but he just tilted his head slightly, standing still like a stone statue. Don't feel like... It's enough. Xiao Ma followed up with a spinning kick to his temple. Boom! A deafening collision sounded, but Ye Cha remained standing completely unmoved. This cruel reality made Xiao Ma feel extremely frustrated. He stood there, his whole body and gaze reeking of death. If you've decided to bet your life, right here. The terrifying killing intent radiating from Ye Cha made Xiao Ma instinctively step back. Ye Cha glanced at him, looking aggressive. I will accept your challenge. To be fair, I won't use my hands, nor will I move from this spot anymore. I'll let you attack me 3 times. As he spoke, he clasped his hands behind his back like a person waiting for execution. Within those 3 attacks, if I use my hands or move even 1 step from this spot, I will spare Bai Tower's life. Hearing this deal, Xiao Ma didn't hesitate for a second. He roared with earth-shattering intensity and lunged forward. Remember your words. A full power punch was unleashed, the force making the surrounding air feel as if it were being torn apart, but Ye Cha still stood still without any reaction. First strike, he roared. A sound that wasn't human emanated from his throat. A terrifying visible sonic wave erupted. The power Of it wasn't martial arts, it was absolute dominance. The sonic wave blasted Xiao Ma dozens of meters away, pinning him straight into a wall. It was no different from the legendary lion's roar. A storm rose up around them. Fei Liu, standing far away, was also affected and had to raise his hands to cover his face. El lion's roar. Xiao Ma was blasted out and fell right next to Cower. She hurried over her face, full of worry. Xiao Ma gritted his teeth, a splitting headache making him dizzy. Just how strong is this bastard? He slowly stood up, not bothering to look at Cower. His voice was serious. No matter what happens, you absolutely must not interfere. Whoosh. Xiao Ma's figure turned into a white streak of light, vanishing before the stunned eyes of Thao Ni. You're moving at a dizzying speed around Yaksoa, looking for an opening, but he stands there like a stone statue, flawless. Tu Ma launches a roundhouse kick at his face, but Yaksoa just tilts his head slightly, dodging it with ease. Using the same old trick again, he scoffs. He unleashes a strike, his leg as straight as a steel pillar, slamming directly into Tu Ma's throat, a single decisive blow. It sends him flying high into the sky. In the blink of an eye, a cold glint flashes in Tu Ma's eyes. He launches himself forward like a cannonball, pouring every ounce of his power into a single punch. If you don't block this, you'll regret it. The fist tears through the air with a howling wind. Yaksoa narrows his eyes, his voice still calm, but carrying a hint of gravity. This one's quite powerful. The guest house floor shatters into 100 pieces like scrap paper. Yaksoa has used his own hand to stop that destructive punch. There was no other way. He murmurs to himself, but on his lips, Tu Ma wears a triumphant smirk. He roars, and the power in his arm surges again, directly pushing Yaksoa back and forcing him to crash through to the ground floor. The floorboards shatter once more. The wind whistles loudly. Tu Ma steps back to assess the situation. Fei Liu and the guard can only stare in shock, mouths agape at the terrifying scene. Beneath the rubble, Yaksoa brushes the dust off his robe. A satisfied smile appears. This is what you wanted, isn't it? How embarrassing, Tu Ma grinds his teeth. Remember to keep your promise. I will keep my word. I'll spare the little girl Bak Tao Ni for today. Yaksoa speaks while analyzing his heavy breathing. He doesn't know the proper breathing techniques or martial arts. He's just acting on instinct. And yet, one punch was enough to shake the very ground. He thinks to himself, perhaps Tu Ma lost his memory after undergoing a total body reconstruction and forcing a reversal of aging, or maybe he suffered a ki deviation. It seems we still have some time. Let's play a little longer, shall we? Yaksoa suddenly takes a stance and shouts, Heaven Mountain. An invisible pressure like a colossal mountain descends, engulfing them both. Tao Ma immediately feels his whole body become leaden. What, I can't move? But that was only the beginning. Yaksoa shouts again, 10,000 waters. The pressure multiplies as if he is being crushed by an entire ocean. But Tu Ma still stands firm, teeth-clenched, veins bulging all over his body. The internal energy flowing from Yaksoa is being absorbed by Tu Ma's body in a frenzy. Yaksoa is astonished. Oh, not only are you enduring it, you're absorbing my internal energy. But every absorption has its limits. The pressure now is far beyond anything imaginable. This is your limit, isn't it? But Tu Ma isn't ready to stop yet. The final blow strikes Tu Ma down, burying him deep into the earth, creating a gaping crater. It seems as though everything is over, but from the bottom of the pit, a blue light suddenly flares up. An aura of primordial savage rage erupts. A phantom of a turquoise dragon appears, standing tall, its golden eyes staring fixedly at Yaksoa. Now this is getting interesting, Yaksoa murmurs. Could it be this is his innate true chi? From beneath the earth, Tu Ma slowly emerges. His eyes are now red as blood, his hair standing on end, his entire body wrapped in a rolling aura of killing intent. If he pulls out the Demon Emperor soul-sealing needle, this kid's power might be even more terrifying. But right now he's just a wild beast unable to control himself. Suddenly, Tu-Ma vanishes. Boom! A heaven-shaking punch lands squarely on Yaksoa's face, sending him flying. Before he can even regain his composure, Tu-Ma reappears like a ghost and launches another attack. This time, Yaksoa manages to grab his hand. "You out-of-control wild beast, stay still," looking into Tu-Ma's soulless eyes, Yaksoa realizes he is just fighting on instinct. No, he really has turned into a beast. Tu-Ma gnaws his sharp teeth, biting down hard on Yaksoa's arm. Pain forces him to let go. Tu-Ma retreats and begins moving at a terrifying speed, creating countless afterimages surrounding Yaksoa. Perhaps this is all you amount to. Just as Tu-Ma lunges, Yaksoa's punch knocks him down. Your movements are too monotonous and predictable. But the more he is hit, the more feral Tu-Ma becomes. Red light streaks begin to envelop, his body showing that he has completely lost control. Yaksoa gathers his strength, his eyes turning cold. Heaven Dragon. No, you are nothing but a wild beast now. There's nothing left to see. Tu-Ma lunges again, but this time Yaksoa easily dodges a palm strike to his stomach, dissipating his savage aura. Then, a final punch is thrown. Boom! Tu-Ma falls unconscious. He plummets like a broken-winged shooting star. Dust rises, obscuring his form. In the terrifyingly silent moment that follows, Fai Lu suddenly remembers an ancient legend. In a primeval forest, there lived a creature, a lord carrying such overwhelming power that all things had to bow their heads. Any creature facing it would lose all will to fight. However, there was one species that stood up to resist a beast that fought until its last breath, not for victory but for honor. So, at this moment, what should I do? Fai Lu stands up straight, his eyes strangely determined. He speaks in a steady voice. "Someone lend me a sword." Immediately, a flurry of swords from the guards are thrown toward him, piercing the floor in a circle. "All members of the strike team listen up," Fai Lu's voice rings out steely and majestic. "First, no matter what happens here, absolutely, do not join the fight. Second, immediately evacuate and protect all civilians within a mile as far as possible. Third, in case I sacrifice myself here." He grips the sword hilt tight. A faint smile appears on his lips. "Ah, no, that won't happen. I will definitely survive and return. Don't you worry." With those words, his figure turns into a lightning bolt, charging straight at Yaksoa. Wood Dragon / Extreme, Void Severing. This is no longer just a technique. It is a strike that converges all of Fai Lu's spirit and will. A jet black blade beam carries the resolve to tear heaven and earth asunder. The terrifying blade aura doesn't just pierce Yaksoa's body, but slices the entire hotel in half. But facing the strongest technique of his life, Fai Lu sees only a sneer. Yaksoa simply lifts a foot and stomps down an action that seems simple, but contains an inexplicable power, completely shattering the blade aura and sending Fai Lu flying like a withered leaf. That last attack was worthy of praise. Yaksoa brushes his sleeves. At that moment, Tu-Ma slowly rises from the rubble, eyes soulless, whispering a single word: infinity. Yaksoa slightly furrows his brow. Infinity. Tu-Ma just holds out one hand. At first, nothing happens, but then the surrounding space begins to tremble. The entire inn, the one that had just been sliced in two, suddenly collapses completely in a cataclysmic explosion. An invisible, pure, and destructive force erupts from where Tu-Ma stands, caught in the center of the blast. Yaksoa reveals his astonishment for the first time. "That punch just now, I can't believe it. It made my diamond indestructible body tremble, and furthermore, This isn't innate true chi, but a more primordial power, the seed that could reshape the martial world that the demon said was truly extraordinary. He slowly walks toward Tu Ma. You have passed out after unleashing that blow. However, a seed will always remain a seed. You will only be remembered by the world as one of countless unknown masters vanished before they ever had a chance to shine. A promise made to a demon suddenly echoed in his mind. There was only one condition. That errand boy, Little Ma from the Valley of Harmonic Music. I want him saved.